It all starts when some genius digs up an ancient ruin and accidentally triggers a global apocalypse, unleashing a toxic red mist that drives citizens completely insane before killing them off, while the local wildlife mutates into giant, bloodthirsty monsters known as aberrants, leaving entire modern metropolises completely leveled and burning in their wake, as panic spreads faster than the plague while survivors run for their lives, prompting the military to finally deploy heavy airstrikes to contain the threat, blowing up entire city blocks in a desperate bid to wipe out the beasts. But our main guy is stuck on the ground, desperately searching for his girl Xiao Shuo, with a pack of mutated wolves cornering him with their jaws wide open, pushing to the absolute limit as he screams her name into the chaos. Unleashing his newly mutated Red Claw, our boy shreds the wolves into absolute ribbons, standing amidst the carnage as a strange red aura begins to seep from his body. But instead of celebrating his survival, he stumbles forward through the smoking concrete ruins, his mind completely consumed by a single goal as he weakly mutters her name, dragging his heavy, mutated arm down the desolate, dust-choked streets of the ruined city, until his foot suddenly stops right next to a familiar-looking doll lying in the dirt, prompting him to drop to his knees, desperately searching the empty space around it, as his trembling hand reaches out to gently touch the only remaining piece of her, a single tear rolling down his face as the crushing reality of his loss finally hits, leaving him completely alone in the wreckage, screaming his despair into the empty, ruined sky. Rewinding to 3 days ago, the government was still telling everyone to stay calm, while our boy and his sister Xiaojua sat trapped in a massive gridlock, until a heavily armed soldier suddenly barks at them to clear the road, revealing the military has already taken over the streets as the red mist descends, prompting a terrified Xiaojua to cling to her brother for dear life. But our boy can only stare out the window at the growing chaos, watching the toxic red fog swallow a military helicopter whole right above them, which immediately triggers a massive, fiery explosion on the highway overpass directly overhead, sending a crushed vehicle plummeting straight down toward their windshield in a split second, leaving our boy with just enough time to shield his sister as everything goes black. This falling car slams violently onto their vehicle, shattering glass and crushing the frame. Our boy immediately shakes off the impact, frantically checking on his parents in the front seats. His bloodied father groans that his leg is pinned, desperately shielding his coughing wife. But before they can even try to free him, a terrifying roar echoes through the smoke, revealing a massive, scaly aberrant tearing through the military lines and sending civilians fleeing in terror. Realizing they are sitting ducks, the father screams at his kids to escape the vehicle immediately, prompting our boy to violently kick his jam door open with a desperate surge of adrenaline, dragging a terrified Xiao Shu out of the wreckage and onto the cracked asphalt. Yet when he tries to pull his parents out, his father begs him to just run, as another mutated beast suddenly corners a nearby survivor, leaving them with absolutely zero time to argue. His mother tightly grabs his wrist, desperately screaming for him to leave them behind, while his father gives him one final heartbreaking command to protect his little sister. Suddenly, a massive blast of red energy obliterates the vehicle, throwing both siblings to the ground, as a terrifying skeletal wolf aberrant emerges from the smoke with a deafening roar, forcing our boy to look back in horror as Xiaoxiu screams for their parents. But the beast's glowing red eyes make it clear there are no survivors left. Dragging his sobbing sister away, our boy runs for their lives while the monster closes in. Overhead, giant winged beasts swoop down, turning the entire metropolitan skyline into a burning war zone, showing that mutated animals and maddened citizens are tearing the world apart at the seams, leaving our boy running blindly into the chaos, wondering how everything fell apart so fast. Outside, a massive wolf aberrant prowls the ruined streets, sniffing out any remaining survivors, while our boy holds his breath in a convenience store, desperately keeping his sister quiet, sweating bullets as he watches the monster's shadow creep closer to their fragile hiding spot. But luckily, the beast decides to move on, its heavy footsteps fading into the distance, allowing both of them to finally slump against the shelves and catch their breath. Suddenly, Xiaoxiu screams in agony, clutching her head as glowing red veins erupt across her face, prompting our boy to grab her shoulders in panic, completely ignoring his own burning skin, until he catches his own reflection in a shattered mirror and realizes they are both infected. Realizing the toxic red mist swirling through the broken windows is already rewriting their DNA, forcing him to quickly pour his last bottle of water onto a clean rag to help her. He quickly presses the damp cloth over Xiaoshua's face to block out the toxic mist, but his own face suddenly erupts with burning, glowing red veins as the infection takes hold, sending him crashing to his knees as a violent surge of raw energy explodes from his body, forcing him to desperately mask his agony so he doesn't completely terrify his little sister, until their brief moment of respite is shattered when the wolf aberrant suddenly stalks into the store, its glowing red eyes scanning the aisles as it slowly closes in on their fragile hiding spot, leaving them completely exposed as the massive beast bares its razor-sharp fangs right in front of them, prompting our boy to grab his sister's hand and bolt just as the monster lunges forward, bursting through the shattered glass doors of the supermarket and back onto the dangerous, ruined streets, only for a massive, winged beast to swoop down from the sky and block their escape. Just when they think they can run, another massive, saber-toothed aberrant blocks their path, prompting our boy to pull Xiao Shu into a tight, protective embrace. while a colossal winged dragon-like beast looms directly overhead, blotting out the sky, revealing they are completely surrounded by a whole pack of bloodthirsty monsters, leaving him to wonder if this is where their journey ends. Realizing the street is a death trap, he drags his sister back toward the supermarket, only to find the massive wolf Aberrant waiting inside, forcing him to grab a metal pipe, raising his makeshift weapon with a desperate shout as he charges the beast. But his strike barely tickles the monster, the pipe snapping uselessly against its hide, leaving him completely defenseless as the massive wolf lets out a deafening roar. Our boy desperately holds the beast's jaws apart, his muscles straining against pure raw power. But a sudden crossbow bolt pierces the monster's eye, forcing it to recoil in pain, revealing his little sister holding a loaded weapon and determined to join the fight, which only enrages the beast further as it immediately turns its deadly focus onto her, forcing her to flee down the narrow aisles with the massive predator hot on her heels. Meanwhile, our boy can't even give chase, suddenly coughing up a thick spray of blood, as the agonizing mutation flares up again, completely paralyzing him right when he needs to move, while his sister trips and falls, leaving her completely defenseless beneath the monster's snapping jaws, prompting him to smash his fist into a concrete pillar in a desperate surge of adrenaline, unleashing a massive spike of red energy that erupts violently to protect his sister. Standing tall above the beast, our boy channels his terrifying new power into his makeshift spear, plunging the metal rod straight into the monster's skull with a savage, bloodthirsty scream, completely losing his mind as he repeatedly shreds the beast in a frenzy of red energy, prompting a terrified Xiaoshu to throw her arms around him to stop the madness, begging him to snap out of it while he desperately tries to claim he is fine, which instantly triggers a painful memory of his mother screaming at him to run from the car, reminding him of his father's final, desperate command to protect his little sister at all costs. Remembering their smiling faces gives him the strength to fight back the overwhelming darkness, allowing his glowing red eyes to finally fade as he softly speaks her name, leaving his sister staring up at him with teary eyes, relieved to have her brother back. Reassuring his terrified sister, our boy apologizes for giving her such a massive scare, but his reassurance is cut short when a massive aberrant suddenly looms right behind her, forcing him to grab Xiao Shu and dive out of the way as glass shatters everywhere, revealing a terrifying, winged beast that is absolutely determined to make them its next meal. Refusing to back down, our boy swings his metal pipe with everything he has left, slamming the makeshift weapon directly into the monster's face to draw its attention away, unleashing a desperate strike that actually forces the colossal creature to recoil in pain, before he quickly tells his sister to hide while he handles the remaining beasts, realizing the biggest monster has already locked onto them and needs to be lured away. However, Xiaoshui clings to him tightly, terrified he will lose his mind to the mutation again. Gently patting her head, our boy promises he won't let the mutation take over his mind again, telling her to wait safely in hiding while he promises to return in one piece, which prompts the worried girl to make him promise he will actually survive this madness. And with a reassuring smile, he vows to do exactly that before turning to face the danger. Stepping out of the shattered storefront, his heavy footsteps echo through the dust-choked air, as he realizes absorbing the blood energy from these monsters is his only ticket to getting stronger, locking his eyes onto the massive winged beast to claim its power for his family's survival. But the colossal monster merely sneers back, completely unimpressed by his tiny human opponent, sending its pack of wolf minions to do the dirty work instead of fighting him directly, leaving our boy to violently swing his metal pipe, determined to paint the streets red. Vaulting through the air, our boy slams his metal pipe directly onto a wolf's skull, but another beast immediately bites down on his arm, prompting him to glare back in fury, before he unleashes a violent burst of red energy that tears the monsters completely in half, marveling at the terrifying, intoxicating surge of raw power flowing through his newly mutated claws, until a military bomber suddenly roars overhead, drawing the attention of the massive winged dragon, which immediately takes flight to intercept the aircraft, leaving our boy momentarily confused on the ground, as he stares down at his hands, wondering what exactly is happening to his body. Suddenly, a massive military missile plummets straight down toward his position, prompting him to scream at his sister to stay back as she runs toward the danger, right before the entire street is swallowed by a colossal blinding explosion. A military helicopter swoops into the smoke, the crew spotting signs of life down below. They quickly load an unconscious Xiao Shu inside, deciding to abandon our boy because of his infection, leaving her completely helpless in the hands of these ruthless, pragmatic military rescuers. Our boy desperately reaches his mutated claw toward the sky as the chopper leaves him behind, while a vision of his sister stands amidst the flames asking why he failed her, her voice echoing with bitter betrayal as the fire threatens to consume her entirely, prompting him to scream her name in absolute agony as his world burns to ash. Suddenly, our boy snaps awake with a gasp, realizing it was just another horrific nightmare, rubbing his temples as he laments that it has already been 6 months since she vanished. Before grabbing his rifle and stepping out, relieved his mutated nature remains a closely guarded secret. He searched every single local shelter for his missing sister, but found absolutely nothing, forcing him to enlist in the Army's lowest-ranking border patrol unit just to gain travel clearance, which brings him to the grim, dust-choked ruins of the Chishi City border outpost. where he runs up to apologize to his captain for being late to his shift, only to get a brutal kick to the gut from the abusive short-tempered squad leader, who barks a final warning to not screw up before sending him up a massive watchtower. Staring out at the massive crimson spire, he reflects on how the red fog ruined humanity, wondering if the terrifying monster that took his sister is still lurking out there. While down below, his lazy captain smokes and suggests they just coast on their duties, confident that the elite special response unit will handle any real danger that comes their way. While the elite special response unit has been busy absolutely shredding monsters all day, our boy sits on the ledge, still hating the foul stench of the crimson fog, but his quiet brooding is cut short when the red mist suddenly begins to part, revealing that a massive hostile force is charging straight toward their outpost, prompting him to warn his lazy captain, who is still busy smoking and ignoring the danger, until the massive wall of crimson fog violently surges forward to swallow them whole, forcing the elite special response unit to sprint into action to contain the threat, only for the toxic red wave to instantly sweep over the charging soldiers, shredding the elite troops in seconds and forcing the terrified captain to order a retreat, as a massive claw suddenly impales him from behind, ending his lazy career. A massive red dragon-like aberrant towers over a terrified soldier, cornering him completely. Meanwhile, our boy watches from the high ledge as the red fog swallows the screaming outpost below, prompting him to dive headfirst off the cliffside to join the chaotic, blood-soaked fray. Right as a massive red monster fires a devastating energy beam that obliterates the ground, but our boy easily pins the first beast, counting his kills with cold, calculated precision, only for another roaring monster to immediately lunge at him with its jaws wide open, which he brutally slices in half, marking his second kill of this chaotic encounter, before plunging his mutated claw into the beast's skull to violently drain its crimson energy, feeling the intoxicating power surge through his veins as he hungers for even more strength. Luckily for him, a whole pack of hungry monsters immediately surrounds him to oblige his request. Fully embracing his monstrous mutation, Yanhao dares the surrounding pack to give him a real challenge, but a massive bolt of purple lightning suddenly strikes down, vaporizing a beast right beside him, prompting our boy to look back in surprise as a mysterious warrior emerges from the smoke, revealing the elite special response captain, Song Rei, who seems highly suspicious of the chaotic scene. Knowing she belongs to the very unit he must avoid, panic instantly sets in for our boy, forcing him to desperately suppress his mutation before his monstrous claws give his secret away. Meanwhile, Song Rei coldly orders her heavily armed squad to sweep the area and eliminate everything, leaving Yanhao cornered by two elite soldiers just as his hands return to normal. Quickly raising his hands in surrender, he claims to be a harmless patrol private to save his skin, right as a colossal red monster rises directly behind him, turning his peaceful surrender into absolute chaos. Fortunately, the elite soldiers quickly vaporize the beast, leaving our boy standing there with his hands raised. But Song Roi immediately corners him, demanding to know why a patrolman is completely unarmed. Before he can answer, she orders a full retreat to their temporary defensive line, dragging him back to their heavily guarded base where security is tighter than ever, as she reviews the grim casualty report detailing the absolute devastation of the outpost, leaving Yanhao sweating bullets while he tries to plan his next move. Tied to a chair, our boy desperately plays the victim card to avoid suspicious eyes. Except the sharp captain points out he conveniently abandoned his post right before the attack, prompting him to quickly spin a terrible lie about taking a nap in the ruins, only for a fellow soldier to instantly snitch on his terrible work ethic. This loyal soldier immediately snaps, threatening to end our boy for daring to slander their captain, while Song Ri merely sighs, realizing this dysfunctional border patrol unit is a complete disaster, especially since their abusive leader is currently wrapped like a mummy and sneezing in the infirmary. Pulling up his file, she notes he barely passed basic training but somehow survived a massacre, prompting our boy to quickly claim his high school track skills saved his cowardly skin. But the sharp captain immediately questions why a self-proclaimed coward would ever join the military. Internally, he remembers his grueling 6-month search and how he mastered controlling his monstrous transformations, surviving as a lone wolf while scouring every ruined settlement for any sign of his sister. Back in reality, she steps closer, branding him a pathetic coward who abandoned his post, leaving him to calmly ask if she plans to execute him right then and there. Leaning in close, Song Rui whispers that she saw what happened to his hands, demanding to know why he is spinning lies and what his real objective is. But their tense interrogation is suddenly cut short as the entire room begins to violently shake, prompting the captain to suspect an earthquake while our boy senses a far more dangerous threat. Shouting for everyone to run as a massive horde of monsters rapidly closes in on them, which only infuriates Song Rui, who assumes he is just using the chaos to escape, slamming him face first into the concrete floor to keep him from running away, shattering the ground beneath them so violently that her own soldiers beg her to chill out, until the cracked floor completely gives way, sending the entire group plummeting into the dark abyss, leaving them stranded in a massive ancient underground cavern with absolutely no easy way out. Our boy wakes up chained in rubble, utterly confused about whether they've fallen underground. Meanwhile, a commanding tall woman with white hair orders her subordinate to turn on the lights. This chained MC argues with his companion, who's apparently a walking disaster magnet. Suddenly, a bright light flares, illuminating the oppressive darkness. They find themselves in a massive cave, a maze apparently dug by aberrations. This tall woman calmly instructs everyone to check their weapons, despite the dire situation. situation. She then orders them to maintain formation and cover their backs, ever the professional. This MC hears wind and realizes there must be a way outside, urging his friend to check. Cap Guy confirms the breeze and calls the MC a first-class escape artist, which is high praise. This MC spots a light ahead, pointing out a path while yelling for everyone to get down. An enormous aberration unleashes a lightning-charged assault right at our boy. Its corrosive fluid sprays everywhere, a nasty warning to stay back. This white-haired commander barks orders, telling patrolmen not to act without her say-so. She eyes Yan Hao, noting his risk aversion and promising an explanation later. Yan Hao wonders what she's planning, since she knows his secret but isn't calling him out. Suddenly, the group hears a sound and senses something approaching from the cavern. A swarm of terrifying, multi-limbed aberrations with glowing red eyes emerges from the darkness. The sheer number of them is overwhelming, making one of the companions yelp about trouble. These monstrous beetles scuttle forward, their mandibles clicking menacingly in the gloom. But then a hand fires, blasting the charging aberrations with explosive rounds. This group sprints down the cavern while firing back at the relentless insect swarm. But Song Rei barks at our boy to keep running instead of playing hero, only for the entire swarm to suddenly freeze in their tracks right behind them, revealing a massive hollowed-out chamber that looks like a giant monster's personal dining room, where a colossal Tyrant-class beast is busy vacuuming up the toxic red mist like a buffet, converting that raw pollution into a concentrated beam of pure destructive energy, prompting Yan Hao to scream a warning as the beast prepares to fire, while Song-Ru leaps into the air to intercept it with a massive lightning-charged shot, right as the colossal beast unleashes a blinding red laser beam straight at them, setting up a spectacular mid-air collision of raw power that shakes the entire cavern. A massive blast of purple energy hits the aberration square in the face, but before the commander can celebrate, a sudden red strike flashes right toward her. Yan Hao leaps in to block the deadly blow with his mutated clawed arm, leaving the stunned commander to promise him a full explanation if they survive this mess. Standing before a towering armored beetle monster, our boy promises to return the favor, though she still doubts his chances since her own heavy attacks barely scratch the beast. This kid just offers a confident smirk, completely unfazed by the massive threat. With a wild battle cry, he launches himself directly at the giant armored beast. Realizing this Tyrant-class monster is exactly like the nightmare he faced in his past, and he eagerly shreds through its defenses to claim its power for himself. Yan Hao ducks under a massive swipe, realizing this giant bug is far tougher than expected, as he eyes his glowing red claws and a normal beast would be shredded by now. But this oversized armored vehicle of a monster has clearly devoured plenty of its own kind. When another massive leg slams down to crush him, our boy effortlessly leaps backward into the air, mocking the beast's sluggish speed and wondering if it put every single stat point into defense, before his eyes flare red, ready to turn this giant moving target into minced meat. He unleashes a flurry of devastating red slashes, leaving his allies completely dumbfounded by the display, especially since Yan Hao was always known as the coward who ran away from every fight. Cap Guy sweats bullets in sheer disbelief, desperately wondering what kind of monster their friend actually is, prompting the commander to reveal he is a secret government weapon built to hunt these beasts. Cap Guy struggles to process that their resident slacker is actually a top-secret bioweapon, and he immediately connects the dots to the recent red mist outbreak they barely survived, prompting the commander to threaten him with absolute secrecy unless he wants a permanent demotion. Meanwhile, the giant beetle monster charges up a massive sphere of highly unstable red energy, unleashing a devastating blast of pure destruction directly at our charging hero, who quickly realizes he might have severely underestimated this overgrown bug's firepower, as the massive shockwave expands outward, forcing this for immediate retreat. This resulting explosion completely levels the cavern, burying everything in a dome of red energy. When the smoke finally clears, the commander barely manages to stand among the crackling debris, while Cap Guy looks up from the rubble, genuinely shocked he survived another near-death experience. Cap Guy catches his breath as a heavily wounded soldier stumbles into him. Turns out the captain sacrificed his own leg to save a lowly patrolman like him, claiming that trading a limb for a life is just part of the job, leaving Cap Guy completely speechless at such a display of selfless old-school heroism. Meanwhile, Yan Hao gets blasted backward, carving a massive trench into the stone floor as his mutated arm painfully reverts to normal from sheer energy depletion. This towering Tyrant-class beetle looms over him, looking entirely unfazed by their entire exchange, and with a deafening roar it raises a massive claw to finish him off. Suddenly, a massive bolt of energy strikes the beast's head, halting its lethal blow, prompting our boy to look up in surprise as a familiar ally joins the fray. This commander aims her lightning-charged sniper rifle hell, screaming that Yan Hao has way too much to explain, but the massive beetle monster just laughs off the hit, completely unbothered by her high-voltage shot, sending a chill down her spine as she realizes this thing is actually mocking them. And right on cue, a thick wave of red mist surges out from the cavern tunnels, which the giant beast immediately absorbs to rapidly stitch its shattered armor back together. Realizing this overgrown bug caused the previous outbreak, she warns that it will soon fully regenerate, urging our boy to retreat immediately, but Yan Hao flatly refuses while charging his mutated arm, pointing out that the monster's red mist actually replenishes his own power for a counterattack, though she quickly reminds him that a single mistake means certain death in this dark pit. Unfazed, the kid prepares to dance with death once more, staring down the towering armored nightmare. The This white-haired commander readies her massive sniper rifle, warning that they only have one shot. She aims to blast open the beast's head armor, leaving Yan Hao to destroy its brain directly, locking her sights onto the creature's glowing red eyes as the perfect target. With a deafening roar, she fires a massive beam of purple lightning alongside our charging hero, and the devastating shot successfully shatters the monster's thick skull plating, allowing Yan Hao to dive in and drive his mutated claws deep into the exposed flesh, unleashing a brutal final strike to tear the giant aberration apart from the inside, as unstable green energy fractures across its entire body, threatening to blow it sky high. Watching the massive explosion, the exhausted commander desperately hopes their desperate gamble actually worked. But the resulting shockwave blasts our boy backward as the cavern erupts in blinding light. This commander runs forward through the smoke, desperately screaming Yan Hao's name as the dust settles, only to find our boy lying completely motionless on the ground, looking like a discarded ragdoll. But as she kneels down, she notices a mysterious photo slipping out of his torn pocket, which she picks up in confusion while a strange dark crystal begins glowing in his limp hand, pulsing with a sinister red energy as it slowly sinks directly into his flesh. Suddenly, Yan Hao finds his consciousness floating in a bizarre void dominated by a giant DNA strand. Realizing he is completely beastified as he drifts helplessly through what feels like his own dying mind, until a specific node on the genetic chain begins to glow with an intense blinding light, snapping him back to reality as the dark crystal embeds itself directly into his chest, leaving him staring blankly into the void with a bizarre, heavy sensation throbbing inside his heart. Yan Hao realizes the giant beast's core has somehow embedded itself directly into his chest, and to his absolute shock, the crystal begins aggressively vacuuming up the surrounding red mist, acting as a perfect safety valve that prevents him from ever losing his sanity again, which means he can now absorb beast power and evolve without any nasty side effects. Unfortunately, this newly formed cheat code apparently has a very strict storage limit, threatening to violently explode if he keeps sucking in this massive wave of energy, forcing him to quickly redirect the excess power before his chest cavity completely gives out. Suddenly, our boy snaps awake in a sterile hospital room with red energy still crackling, his eyes flashing a dangerous crimson as the residual beast power surges through his veins, instantly commanding the chaotic energy to gather in his palm for one final test. Just as the commander opens his hospital door, she is greeted by wild spikes of crimson energy, and before she can even process the danger, our boy gets blasted right through the window, triggering a massive red explosion that completely blows out the side of the hospital building, rewinding the clock to 5 minutes before this chaotic demolition derby of a wake-up call. This commander stands in the hallway, receiving some classic military comfort about her subordinate's lost leg, though the injured deputy inside is far more interested in grilling her about Yan Hao's secret identity, prompting her to immediately shut down the interrogation by flashing his classified file right in his face, before casually announcing she already transferred his nosy self to a nice, quiet desk job at headquarters, adding that she will be reporting his little stunt directly to his high-ranking father for final judgment, and freezing his communication privileges on the spot to ensure he stays put and behaves. This white-haired commander marches down the hospital hallway, demanding to know where Yan Hao is being kept, and the guard quickly leads her right to the door of Ward 314, prompting her to order the guard to secure the perimeter and let absolutely nobody inside. But the moment she slides the door open, she is greeted by swirling crimson energy, finding our boy desperately trying to contain a massive, unstable ball of pure beast power, who screams at her to move just before the volatile energy violently blasts him backward, forcing the commander to hit the deck as a massive shockwave tears through the room, which completely obliterates the outer wall and sends the guard outside flying down the hall, while a runaway crimson laser beam shoots straight across the city, piercing right through a nearby skyscraper, leaving her hospitalized deputy to stare out his window, wondering how long she can hide this absolute madness. This poor guard grovels on the floor, cursing his terrible luck for getting caught in the blast, while Captain Song stares at the collateral damage, realizing Yan Hao just used a monster's signature move, and she decides it is finally time to demand some serious answers from our resident mystery kid. Meeting up on the hospital rooftop right above the freshly blasted hole, they start their little chat, where she tries to wrap her head around his absurd ability to copy monster skills directly, prompting Yan Hao to casually add that his new chest crystal also vacuums up toxic red mist, leaving the commander highly amused by his ridiculous list of overpowered built-in cheat codes. However, our boy looks down at his mutated red claw, harboring a dark, lingering worry, wondering if he is slowly losing his humanity and what she truly sees when she looks at him. She simply smiles, reassuring him that his actions alone will decide if he is a man or a monster. Captain Song paces back and forth, pointing out his volatile power is a double-edged sword, giving him two very distinct choices to make right here on this rooftop, with the second option being labeled a threat and hunted down like a monster. Yan Hao scoffs at the threat, completely unfazed by the idea of being hunted, pointing out that the local military doesn't actually have the firepower to stop him, though she warns him that taking on the entire organization alone is pure suicide. Our boy immediately smells a rat, wondering what her real hidden agenda actually is. but she insists they aren't enemies and that she genuinely needs his unique talents, hinting that there might be a much deeper, more dangerous game at play here, before she suddenly pulls out a mysterious file, offering him a very tempting transaction. Yanhao stares in absolute shock at the old photograph of him and his missing sister, as Captain Song smugly explains that digging up his tragic backstory was absolute child's play, prompting our boy to realize that joining her squad is his best shot at finding her, so he snatches the photo back and officially agrees to her high-stakes deal, though he immediately tries to squeeze her for a cheeky little pay raise on top, which she actually grants at the highest standard before yelling at him to get lost, sending him running off to handle his official transfer paperwork with a goofy salute. But just as he reaches the exit, Captain Song calls out to him once more, casually mentioning she paid for his hospital-wrecking stunt and will be deducting it from his salary, leaving her to silently vow she will use his power to save her captive uncle. Watching Yanhao walk out the door, Captain Song silently trusts her gut, believing this kid holds the ultimate key to reversing the monster mutation process. Meanwhile, a military jeep pulls up to the bustling city patrol garrison building, where a chatty patrolman is shocked to hear Yanhao is also transferring, bragging about his own high-level connections despite only landing a basic logistics role. Our boy just stares blankly, realizing he doesn't even remember this guy's name, until the loudmouth spots their old captain and waves him over in excitement, prompting Yanhao to turn around and notice a tense crowd gathering nearby. There, a massive bully confronts the crippled captain, bringing up some ancient personal grudge, before brutally kicking the injured veteran for daring to ask for his squad's pension. Seeing his former leader get kicked, the chatty patrolman leaps forward with a furious punch, but the bully's lackeys instantly pin him to the pavement, completely shutting down his heroic rescue attempt, while the scar-faced thug grabs Captain Gia by the chin, demanding he lick mud off his boots, threatening to snap the pinned patrolman's arm and hand it over as a makeshift crutch. Humiliated and helpless, the injured veteran grits his teeth as cold sweat pours down his face, slowly bending his bandaged knees to submit to the cruel demand to save his subordinate. But Yanhao suddenly catches him mid-fall, firmly declaring there is absolutely no need to kneel, warmly reminding the old captain that it is finally his turn to repay the favor. Our boy then turns to the thugs, promising to turn their bones into firewood if they touch him, leaving the arrogant lackeys completely stunned by this random kid's absolute audacity. 4 angry thugs charge at Yanhao with their batons raised, screaming that he is courting death, but our boy remains completely unfazed, locking his cold gaze onto his targets as he prepares to strike. He delivers a devastating kick straight to the first thug's face, sending him flying backward instantly. Before the second lackey can even react, a brutal elbow strike crushes his jaw on the spot, followed by a lightning-fast low sweep that takes out the third guy's legs with absolute precision, ending the combo with a devastating gut punch that completely folds the final attacker in half, slamming him into the pavement with enough force to shatter the concrete right beneath him. Within 4 seconds, all 4 thugs are left groaning in pain on the floor like discarded trash, leaving their scar-faced boss sweating bullets as he tries to process how a kid moved so fast, prompting the desperate leader to pull out a gun, hoping a bullet can solve his skill issue. Yanhao just smirks as the bullets whiz harmlessly past his face, completely unbothered, instantly closing the distance to grab the thug's wrist before he can even pull the trigger, crushing the metal handgun into absolute scrap metal with his bare hand right before his eyes, letting the useless pieces clatter to the ground while mocking the thug's pathetic speed. Desperate and terrified, the scar-faced boss pulls out a knife and lunges forward with a wild slash, only for our boy to effortlessly catch his wrist midair, completely stopping the blade in its tracks. Yanhao lifts the massive bully off his feet by his throat, making him drop his weapon, leaving the helpless thug choking and pleading for mercy as his tough guy act completely crumbles, while our boy looks on with cold, unforgiving eyes, ready to deliver some poetic justice. With a brutal slam, he craters the boss directly into the pavement, ending the fight instantly. Yanhao stands over the cratered boss, who is now completely unconscious and wheezing on the shattered concrete, leaving the surrounding crowd of patrolmen absolutely speechless at his terrifying display of raw power, while our boy silently marvels at how much his new beast core has boosted his physical limits, sending the remaining thugs running for their lives before he calmly picks up the captain's dropped crutches. And as the chatty patrolman runs over to shower him with praise, Yanhao checks on his injuries, handing the crutches back to Captain Gia and reminding the old veteran that loyalty goes both ways. Still, the injured captain worries about the inevitable retaliation from the local city defense team, but the loudmouth patrolman smugly points out that their new elite status makes them completely untouchable. Shortly after, our boy arrives at the Special Response Unit's high-tech temporary base in the city, where Captain Song confirms his official transfer paperwork has already been sent straight to military headquarters. Captain Song hands over the digital tablet, showing his transfer application has officially been approved, but as Yanhao smugly asks if he is finally an official member now, She quickly shuts down his excitement, telling him he must immediately head to Hucheng, where he will have to pass a brutal entry assessment for their elite combat division. And soon enough, a military convoy is seen speeding down the highway toward the capital, with several armored jeeps kicking up dust as they race toward the massive city. While Captain Song explains that Hucheng is the official headquarters of their elite organization, Yan Hao asks how the warrior ranks are determined, pointing at his chatty patrolman friend, who just laughs off the insult, proudly claiming his only real talent is taking a beating, prompting Captain Song to clarify that logistics members do not need to take the combat test. This chatty patrolman laughs, reminding Yan Hao that combat squads still rely heavily on logistics support, before diving into a quick breakdown of how human warriors are ranked from S down to E, while the monstrous aberrations they fight are classified from basic scouts up to terrifying overlords, followed by the absolute worst-case scenarios known as Behemoth and Calamity-class threats. Naturally, each warrior rank is expected to handle its corresponding monster tier in a straight fight, though Yan Hao's ears perk up when he hears about beast core affinity affecting their potential, learning that humans can only awaken special abilities by attuning to these harvested monster hearts, meaning anyone unable to bond with a core is permanently capped at a pathetic E rank. Suddenly, their armored jeep screeches to a violent halt, kicking up a massive cloud of dust, as an armed guard blocks the road, warning them that the entire street is currently locked down. This guards refuse to budge, claiming they are also on highly classified official business, especially since they are escorting a VIP from the powerful Green Vine Group, leaving Captain Song highly suspicious about why a corporate giant is crashing their military assessment. An hour later, the recruits gather at the high-tech facility for their official initiation, where a strict A-rank examiner warns them that family connections mean absolutely nothing here, demanding they prove their worth through raw talent alone if they want to survive. With a dramatic gesture, the commander officially kicks off the grueling physical trials, starting with a weighted sprint where Yan Hao effortlessly clocks in at 5 seconds flat, followed by a casual one-handed lift of a massive 500-kilogram dumbbell that shocks the crowd, before he absolutely obliterates the striking power machine with a single, effortless punch. This broken machine sparks wildly, leaving the crowd completely speechless as it fails to calculate his score. 10 minutes later, an assistant reports to the head examiner that all the physical trials are officially complete, who stares at his tablet in absolute disbelief after confirming a mind-blowing score of 198 points, sending shockwaves through the other recruits who know the previous rookie record was only 140. Just as the whispers of cheating begin to spread, a smug newcomer steps forward to challenge the results, identifying himself as the city defense captain's younger brother Zhang Jin, who flatly refuses to believe the score, prompting instructor Lin to snap back, demanding to know if he is being accused of rigging the test. Backing down with a slimy grin, the arrogant rookie claims he was simply curious about their new prodigy, before casually walking past Yan Hao to confirm if he really is the kid from the local patrol team, offering a fake friendly greeting while silently promising to make our boy pay for stealing his spotlight. Zhang Jin silently vows to make Yan Hao pay tenfold for humiliating his older brother, while our boy watches him walk away, wondering if they really share the same hometown. Instructor Lin explains that Zhang Jin is a rich kid from the Chishi City defense team, prompting Yan Hao to smirk as he realizes this kid is from that same rotten squad, before the instructor officially announces the top physical test results to the waiting crowd, declaring Yan Hao the undisputed first-place champion with an absolute record-breaking score of nearly 200. This news immediately catches the attention of Jin Ying, a quirky blonde researcher who finds him fascinating. Meanwhile, Zhang Jin sits alone in his private dorm room, fuming over losing the top spot, while a corporate caller on his tablet brutally reminds him of his own pathetic lack of talent, warning the arrogant rookie that he only has one final chance to prove his worth. Zhang Jin grits his teeth in frustration, swearing to enter the elite division for his brother's sake. Meanwhile, the recruits gather at the high-tech testing station for the next phase of the exam, where instructor Lin holds up a metallic wrist guard, explaining the rules of the affinity test, instructing them to simply attach the device and place a beast core directly onto it, warning that anyone with an affinity score below 40% will face immediate elimination, as he displays a chart showing how higher-tier monsters yield far more powerful cores, which grant users unique elemental magic or devastating physical power based on their innate talent, or even specialized support and control abilities that can completely turn the tide of battle. Though he clarifies this basic testing device won't actually grant them any powers just yet, before raising his voice to officially declare that the beast core affinity test has begun. This first recruit watches the screen flash a pathetic 39%, failing the test instantly, sending him straight to his knees in absolute despair despite his high physical ranking, while the next candidate barely scrapes by with a 56%, celebrating his narrow victory. Before the instructor calls up Zhang Jin, who steps forward with an incredibly smug look, his eyes glowing with a dark, intense determination to crush everyone else's scores, as he casually holds a beast core directly over his metallic testing wrist guard, letting the small crystal snap firmly into place with a sharp metallic click, forcing his raw willpower into the device while demanding the core submit to him. Instantly, the massive digital screens flash a highly impressive 60% affinity rate, leaving the surrounding crowd of recruits completely blown away by his elite talent. Jong Jin smirks with glowing red eyes, internally calling everyone else a bunch of pathetic trash. He walks off while the crowd whispers, completely unaware that Yan Hao is silently sizing him up. Suddenly, Jin Ying pops up behind our boy, wondering how such a powerhouse stayed completely off her radar. She proudly introduces herself as a technical intelligence expert who knows absolutely everyone's secrets, before casually asking if he caused the recent massive energy spike back in his hometown, prompting Yan Hao to play dumb, though she just giggles and claims she is highly intrigued. Realizing her connections could be useful, our boy asks if she can share some classified intel, which she happily agrees to do with a playful wink and a finger to her lips, but only on the condition that he manages to beat her score in the upcoming test. Right before the speakers blare, calling her up next to take the affinity assessment, Jin Ying cheerfully skips toward the testing platform, waving her hand like she is heading to a playground. This quirky researcher confidently commands the entire room to watch closely as she prepares to shatter the record, while Zhang Jin watches from behind Yan Hao, scoffing at her like she is some pathetic clown. Unbothered by the haters, the blonde flashes a smug grin and points a thumb at herself, letting her beast core spin rapidly in the air before snapping perfectly into her wrist guard. With a dramatic pose, she tells the crowd to pay attention as she activates the device, instantly lighting up the massive screens with a mind-blowing 78% affinity rate that shocks everyone, prompting her to flash a cheeky thumbs up while basking in her absolute victory. Skipping right back, she happily rubs her success directly in the face of a seething Zhang Jin. This arrogant rookie silently vows to destroy both of them just as Yan Hao is called up. Recognizing her impressive talent, our boy steps up as she playfully asks if he is feeling the pressure. Determined to win their bet and get clues about his sister, he tells her to just watch, holding a high-quality black beast core that perfectly matches the powerful one he previously absorbed, before locking the dark crystal into his metallic wrist guard with a sharp, satisfying click, sending his raw energy surging into the device to finally reveal his true potential. Instantly, the system registers a C rank rating, leaving the surrounding recruits completely stunned by his squad leader potential. But the massive screens suddenly flash red with a system error as the calculations completely break down, revealing a mind-boggling affinity rate of absolute 0% that leaves Yan Hao completely dumbfounded. This hilarious failure prompts Zhang Jin to point and laugh hysterically at our boy's pathetic score, loudly mocking him because even the beast core itself seems to completely reject his body. Yan Hao stares down at his wrist in absolute shock, realizing something is terribly wrong. Red energy suddenly surges from the device as the beast core begins dissolving into his arm. Our boy panics as his body starts absorbing the powerful crystal completely against his will. Meanwhile, the console flashes a 0% rating, leaving the blonde researcher completely baffled by the result. Instead of being disappointed, she eagerly types away, thrilled to record this historic anomaly. Spotting an opportunity to strike, Zhang Jin notices the crystal has completely vanished from the guard. This arrogant rookie immediately yells to Instructor Lin, accusing our boy of stealing the military's property. Instructor Lin snaps his head around, demanding Yan Hao raise his hand to show the device. But when everyone looks, the slot is completely empty, with no trace of the core left, leaving a sweating Yan Hao to awkwardly raise his hand, completely clueless about how to explain this. Realizing he needs a solid cover story immediately to avoid becoming a military science project, our boy decides to gamble everything by pretending this sudden mutation is just a rare core ability, as he dramatically unleashes a massive blood-red demonic claw right in front of the testing crowd. This terrifying transformation instantly sending a wave of pure panic through the surrounding recruits, prompting Instructor Lin to draw his lightning-infused blade and order everyone to fall back immediately, while Jin Ying just squeals in absolute delight, completely fascinated by this incredibly rare beastification phenomenon. But the tense examiner silently wonders if Yan Hao is actually infected by a monster virus, concluding that he might have to execute our boy right on the spot. Breaking the heavy silence, the blonde researcher calls out to check if he is still sane, and Yan Hao casually turns around, completely clueless about why everyone is suddenly sweating bullets. Instructor Lin lowers his weapon, sweating as he asks if our boy has lost his mind, but Yan Hao calmly explains that the core burrowed into his arm entirely on its own, prompting Jin Ying to grab his arm in excitement, declaring it a rare transformation ability. Hearing this, the instructor smiles and tells our boy he just hit the absolute jackpot. Curious about her deep knowledge, our boy demands to know who she actually is, only for her to strike a cute pose and claim she is just a natural know-it-all, until Instructor Lin ruins her mysterious vibe by revealing her father is the head of R&D, before holding out his hand and casually asking our boy to return the military's beast core. This leaves Yan Hao scratching his head in pure awkwardness, trying to find the right words, as he points to his empty wrist guard, admitting the crystal literally fused with his body. Watching from the sidelines, a shady recruit realizes Yan Hao's body literally absorbed the beast core, plotting to immediately sell out our boy to a mysterious organization called Green Vine. Meanwhile, Yan Hao is quickly wheeled into the high-tech radiology room for a full-body scan, lying flat inside a massive medical pod as red lasers map out his entire anatomy, leaving the baffled lab technician staring at x-rays of a crystal fused directly to his bones. prompting them to ask the eccentric head of R&D Director Jin for his professional opinion, who pushes up his glasses with a creepy grin, eager to dissect our boy's secrets, just as a high-ranking military general marches into the lab demanding a full briefing, only for the eccentric director to playfully mock the military's rigid recruitment rules, prompting the annoyed general to tell him to stop being dramatic and spit it out. Director Jin reveals he co-developed the testing gear, meaning that 0% score is a complete lie, while his daughter Jin Ying aggressively shakes his arm, practically begging him to spill the juicy details. With a manic grin, the director explains that our boy's affinity didn't fail. It actually broke the machine, completely shattering the theoretical maximum limit of 100% and leaving the general speechless. Taking action immediately, the general orders his aide to follow him out of the lab. Meanwhile, Yan Hao lies in the scanner, noticing his internal crystal core is shifting from black to red, realizing that even though he didn't get a new ability, absorbing the core significantly strengthened his power, which means as long as he keeps plundering these monsters, his potential for evolution is practically infinite. Shortly after, the scene shifts to the towering skyscraper of the Special Response Unit's Crimson Blood headquarters, where the general argues with a squad leader about letting their overpowered new recruit join her elite team. This general sternly reminds Captain Song Rui of her rank, questioning her sudden attachment to our boy. She desperately protests, arguing that breaking her promise to recruit him would ruin her honor as a soldier. But her father coldly shuts her down, declaring that Yan Hao's assignment to the other squad is final, ordering her to return to her post immediately instead of trying to poach another squad's recruit. Though she reluctantly obeys, the frustrated captain silently vows to find another way to get her hands on him. Meanwhile, back at the barracks lounge, a loud voice suddenly echoes through the halls with urgent news, as Jin Ying comes running in, waving a mission sheet for a newly discovered monster nest, leaving Yan Hao completely caught off guard by this sudden, forced team-up for his very first assignment. While their instructor briefs them on the scouting mission, warning that even low-tier nests can hold deadly surprises. But the quirky blonde just flashes a smug grin, confidently promising to keep our boy safe with her elite intelligence. 3 heavy armored vehicles kick up dust as they speed toward the designated danger zone. Inside the lead car, Jin Ying explains that they are entering a complex hive-type nest, prompting Yan Hao to wonder why they need 3 whole vehicles for a simple wasp nest. But the driver suddenly cuts in, warning them that something dangerous is waiting right ahead. Our boy looks out the window, spotting a swarm of black dots rapidly approaching them, which turn out to be massive red-eyed Scout-class iron bees buzzing with pure hostility, forcing the panicked driver to spin the steering wheel and yell for everyone to hold tight, as a lethal rain of metallic stingers comes showering down from the sky, leaving Jin Ying to scream in terror that their armored vehicle won't survive the onslaught. But Yan Hao just grins with glowing red eyes, ready to test his brand new power. This heavy armored vehicle takes a brutal beating as metallic stingers rain down on them, but Yan Hao leaps straight into the chaos, telling the crew to hold their ground, as he aggressively slices through the swarm of giant bees with his monstrous red claws, leaving the driver completely dumbfounded by this bizarre, weaponized mutation while Jin Ying smugly explains it, realizing our boy can actually overlay his beastly transformation directly onto ordinary objects, which makes her incredibly eager to log his combat data for further scientific study. Suddenly, a mysterious green energy beam pierces right through the swarm from an unknown direction, forcing Yan Hao to block the high-velocity projectile with his hardened red shield, only to realize this new attack is far deadlier than the standard bee stingers, prompting him to yell a warning to Jin Ying to find cover immediately. Jin Ying frantically points toward a massive boulder, shouting for everyone to take cover immediately. A brave soldier charges forward with a flamethrower, ignoring her warnings because bees supposedly hate fire, but a high-velocity green laser instantly pierces right through his chest before he can even fire, detonating his fuel tank and vaporizing the poor guy in a massive, fiery explosion. Shielding himself from the blast, Yan Hao demands to know what kind of monster shoots green lasers, as Jin Ying checks her tablet, realizing they accidentally stumbled into a deadly mid-tier nest. Our boy tells her to handle the smaller pests while he charges straight for the queen, prompting the blonde researcher to finally unleash her own elemental power with a confident shout, as violent currents of wind begin swirling rapidly around her legs, kicking up dust, revealing her D-rank wind ability as she summons a massive storm to blow the swarm away. With a confident shout, Jin Ying unleashes her wind magic, scattering the giant bees in all directions. Meanwhile, Yan Hao charges straight through the chaos, his eyes locked onto the massive hive ahead, spotting the terrifying queen bee hiding right in the center of the buzzing swarm. This monstrous insect screeches in fury, ready to turn our boy into its next meal. But Yan Hao simply smirks, using his red energy to mold a deadly stone spear, admiring his crude new weapon before preparing to launch a devastating counterattack. He stomps his foot down hard, shattering the rocky ground to build up explosive momentum, launching himself high into the air while the remaining swarm desperately tries to block him. And with a powerful throw, he hurls the energy-infused spear straight at his target, sending a lethal streak of crimson light tearing directly toward the panicked queen bee. This stone spear pierces right through the queen bee's armored body with a satisfying crunch, but instead of dropping dead, the giant insect hovers there completely unfazed, leaving Jin Ying to sweat in sheer disbelief at this monster's absurd power. She screams for our boy to finish it off before the beast can escape, as the giant insect retreats into the swarm to undergo a terrifying mid-battle evolution. Unfortunately, Yan Hao collapses flat on his back, his energy reserves completely bottomed out. Standing over him with a smug grin, the blonde researcher playfully teases her exhausted partner. Our boy sits up just enough to deliver a savage rejection about his lack of interest, prompting her to puff her cheeks and offer him a chocolate bar for quick recovery, while the backup troops finally arrive to secure the area and report the anomaly. Looking at the massive, glowing yellow dome of the nest, Jin Ying stands atop their vehicle. She checks her scanner, noting the low toxic fog concentration means they can safely enter, eagerly convincing a highly skeptical Yan Hao that raiding this high-tier nest will yield massive rewards. Meanwhile, high up in the Chief of Staff's office at the Special Response Unit headquarters, this military brass remains deeply divided over whether to train our boy or dissect him, prompting the stern general to order his aide to keep a very close eye on him. But their conversation is suddenly cut short by a loud, high-priority emergency transmission. This panicked aide answers, shocked to hear that Yan Hao's target has escalated to high threat, leaving the general suspicious, knowing the meticulous blonde researcher would never take such a reckless gamble. So he immediately orders Captain Song Rui's elite squad to deploy and rescue them. Just as the general finishes his command, a familiar face walks right into the office. Turns out the general wants Lin Yongji to continue serving directly under Captain Song Rui, officially ordering him to report for duty as her personal adjutant without any delay, which leaves the older brother wondering if the general had this whole setup planned beforehand. Dismissing them with a wave, the old man silently hopes this helps his daughter out. Meanwhile, Yan Hao and Jin Ying trek deeper into the nest wearing specialized protective suits, navigating through a desolate cavern filled with swirling patches of toxic red mist, though the blonde researcher warns that an evolved overlord-class queen will absolutely wreck them. Suddenly, our boy senses danger and throws his hand out to halt her progress, right before a massive mutated insect bursts through the rock wall with a deafening screech. This beast turns out to be a mutated Overlord-class poison stinger queen bristling with armor, leaving Jin Ying sweating in disbelief since the local fog concentration shouldn't support rapid evolution. To make matters worse, the surrounding scout bees have also received a massive power boost, prompting her to check her analyzer, only to find the toxic fog is way past warning levels. But before she can process the glitch, she collapses to her knees, coughing up blood, realizing someone tampered with their protective suits, meaning there is a traitor inside their own organization. Before they can even name a suspect, the cavern ceiling begins to violently collapse above them, forcing Yan Hao to grab her hand and sprint as heavy boulders crash down behind them. Though our boy secretly smirks, realizing this dense toxic fog is actually the perfect energy recharge. But first he must kick a massive boulder aside to secure their escape route. Finding a safe, well-ventilated crevice, Yan Hao tells Jin Ying to hide inside, instructing her to contact headquarters for backup while he holds off the oncoming swarm, and the blonde researcher confidently salutes, promising to transmit all their crucial combat data. As our boy turns to face the danger, she suddenly calls out his name, threatening to hunt him down in the afterlife if he dares to die here, which only earns a confident smirk from Yan Hao as he promises his safe return. Stepping forward with explosive resolve, he channels his crimson energy to face the mutated queen, determined to protect his allies just like he promised back during his previous life. So he conjures a swirling sphere of red force, daring the monsters to bring it on, completely surrounded by a buzzing wall of giant insects ready to tear him apart. Yan Hao condenses his remaining red mist energy, knowing he only has one shot to make it count. He focuses entirely on stabilizing the volatile crimson sphere, pouring every ounce of his strength into it, and with a fierce roar he unleashes a massive crimson beam that tears through the cavern ceiling, detonating in a spectacular flash of red light that completely vaporizes everything in its path. As the devastating shockwave crashes directly into the mutated queen bee's heavily armored shell, standing amidst the rising smoke, our boy anxiously looks up to see if his final gamble worked. But instead of victory, a thick wave of toxic red mist begins swirling around his boots, revealing an even larger swarm of red-eyed monsters emerging from the shadows to surround him, leaving Yan Hao completely stunned as he realizes his ultimate attack barely even scratched them. Meanwhile, 5 minutes earlier, Jin Ying frantically disassembles her analyzer and confirms it was indeed sabotaged. Jin Ying quickly recalibrates her broken analyzer with a screwdriver, hoping for some accurate readings, but the screen immediately flashes red, showing toxic levels double the maximum safety threshold, before a sudden violent shockwave blasts through the cave and knocks her off her feet. Peering through a crack in the rocks, she realizes Yan Hao just unleashed a massive explosion, which unfortunately only stirs up the toxic red mist and makes the air even deadlier. forcing the local scout bees to instantly evolve into heavily armored, red-eyed hound-class predators. Outside, our boy barely dodges a razor-sharp leg as the newly upgraded swarm lunges at him, realizing with growing frustration that these bugs are multiplying faster than he can squash them, and even with the ambient energy around, his body simply cannot absorb power fast enough, leaving Yan Hao to grit his teeth as he blocks another heavy strike, running dangerously close to empty. Watching from her hiding spot, Jin Ying anxiously wonders if Yan Hao can actually survive this onslaught, especially after she notices the terrifying red corrosion marks creeping rapidly up his neck, confirming that his protective suit was also sabotaged by the traitor back at headquarters, while her handheld scanner screams that his energy levels are about to completely overload. Realizing she has to act fast, the blonde researcher prepares to blow the toxic mist away, unleashing a high-velocity wind bullet to clear a path straight toward our struggling hero. This swirling gale tears through the cavern, successfully scattering the deadly red fog around him, giving Jin Ying the perfect opening to flash a confident thumbs up and yell for detonation, pressing her thumb down to trigger a massive controlled shockwave right on cue, leaving a thoroughly confused Yan Hao spinning in a giant chaotic vortex of wind. Yan Hao looks around in absolute shock as the sudden gale sweeps through the cavern, realizing that clearing the toxic mist just completely cut off his endless energy supply, which gives the surrounding swarm of mutated insects the perfect chance to close in. Suddenly, a barrage of high-velocity green stingers shoots straight up from the shadows, forcing our boy to cross his arms and block the incoming projectiles head-on. But the venomous tips pierce his defenses, instantly spreading a numbing paralysis through his limbs, leaving him completely frozen in place as another wave of lethal projectiles rains down. With his body locked up, the kid realizes he has absolutely no way to dodge. At that exact moment, a heavily armored ally leaps in to shield him from the blast, taking the full force of the exploding stingers right on his own back. Yan Hao looks up in utter shock, recognizing the man who just saved his skin. Turns out Lin Yongji is a C-class powerhouse, and he warns our boy to stay sharp. As the buzzing swarm of mutated insects quickly closes in on their position from all sides, but a sudden barrage of high-voltage purple lightning tears through the cave, vaporizing the pests. Unleashing this devastating railgun strike is none other than Captain Song Rui, looking incredibly badass, leaving our boy completely dumbfounded as he asks why the captain is even here. She casually explains that headquarters sent them as backup to clean up this mess, before pointing her weapon forward and ordering her elite squad to wipe out the vermin, prompting her heavily armed soldiers to charge straight into the cavern with absolute confidence. They immediately unleash a torrent of flames, turning the mutated bugs into literal crispy snacks. Hearing the captain's orders, Lin Yongji and his squad immediately fall back from the blazing inferno, but their retreat is cut short by a massive, terrifying Dominator-class wasp screeching in anger, which unleashes a blinding red laser beam that nearly slices the retreating soldiers in half, prompting Captain Song Ru to lock onto the beast while charging up her high-voltage railgun, and she unleashes her ultimate electromagnetic annihilation technique, sending a massive wave of purple lightning forward. This high-voltage field instantly intercepts the incoming red laser beam with absolute, overwhelming force, detonating in a spectacular clash that completely paralyzes everything caught within its massive blast radius. Shockwaves ripple through the cavern as the lightning successfully snares the giant queen wasp mid-air, forcing the twitching monster to flee upward while the captain orders her squad to prioritize rescue, leaving Yan Hao completely amazed by this display of power from the fully geared captain. Captain Song Rui immediately asks for the blonde researcher's location, with her soldiers pointing her out. Jin Ying immediately starts complaining about the close call, demanding the captain buy her drinks later, while Yan Hao quietly slips away from the group to secretly recharge his red mist energy, knowing his previous attack failed to finish off the queen and he needs another shot. But just as his energy reserves are almost fully replenished, a massive explosion shakes the cavern, prompting our boy to spin around in surprise as the ground violently trembles beneath him. Even the battle-hardened captain and Lin Yongji freeze, staring up in absolute disbelief at the ceiling, where the giant queen wasp is rapidly vacuuming up all the toxic red mist in the cavern, triggering an impossible second evolution that turns the already deadly beast into an absolute nightmare, leaving a panicked Jin Ying to watch her scanner scream as the toxicity levels spike to Tier 4. This newly evolved queen wasp lets out a terrifying, deafening roar that shakes the entire cavern, while a massive swarm of hound-class bugs suddenly ambushes the squad from behind, catching them off guard, prompting Yan Hao to leap forward, declaring he will handle the queen while they cover him, and Captain Song Ru immediately orders all units to focus their fire on the surrounding swarm. Unleashing a barrage of deadly yellow energy beams, the giant queen wasp targets our boy, but Yan Hao deflects every single strike with his razor-sharp claws in a flurry of sparks. Realizing that simple physical attacks are not going to cut it against this armored monstrosity, so he condenses his crimson energy into a volatile sphere, unleashing his signature scarlet condensing blast, which detonates in a massive fiery explosion that completely engulfs the mutated queen wasp mid-air. Landing back on the ground, our boy smirks through the smoke, anxiously wondering if it actually worked. Suddenly, a massive razor-sharp stinger shoots directly out of the rising smoke cloud, slamming violently into the ground right next to Yan Hao as he barely dodges, only to realize this giant projectile is actually one of the Queen's own discarded stingers, prompting our boy to grab the massive spike and wrap it in his crimson energy. Leaping high into the air while dodging a barrage of incoming projectiles from the Queen, as he channels every last drop of his remaining red mist into the makeshift blade, aiming to return the favor by driving her own weapon straight through her face. And with a terrifying red-eyed glare, he unleashes his devastating red mist slash, slicing the giant mutated queen wasp completely in half with one clean, brutal stroke, sending her massive smoking carcass crashing down to the cavern floor with a heavy thud. A glowing red crystal floats in the air, left behind by the vaporized queen wasp. Yan Hao immediately recognizes it as a rare Dominator-class beast core, his eyes widening in surprise. And without a second thought, our boy grabs the floating crystal to absorb its power. But the sheer volume of raw energy instantly floods his system, completely overwhelming his internal core, leaving him screaming in agony as his body struggles to contain the volatile power. Meanwhile, a massive purple lightning blast vaporizes the remaining swarm of mutated pests, prompting Captain Song-Ru to order her squad to immediately reinforce Yan Hao, only to freeze in horror as they spot their hero collapsed face first on the stone floor, forcing the captain to scream his name in absolute panic as she rushes forward. As the blonde researcher frantically monitors his failing vitals, declaring his neural signals are collapsing. Hooked up to medical sensors, Yan Hao writhes as the toxic red mist threatens his sanity, prompting Captain Song-Ru to order her lieutenant to immediately deploy a mobile medpod, while their armored transport kicks up dust as it speeds toward a temporary perimeter camp. They quickly load our unconscious hero into the pod while their tech officer monitors his vitals, before the heavy lid slams shut to administer a heavy dose of emergency anesthesia. But the tech officer warns the captain that this temporary fix won't hold him for long. Meanwhile, deep inside his own mind, a dark, beastified clone chokes out Yan Hao's consciousness, triggering glitchy, painful memories of his family as he slowly slips away into the darkness, where he remembers promising to protect a crying girl before his mind completely fades out, leaving his physical body to collapse completely as the red corruption takes over. In his fading consciousness, the memories of his parents urge him to survive and protect his sister, while his sister begs him to return safely as his dark clone continues to choke him, and suddenly the voices of his allies echo through the void, refusing to let him give up, fueling Yan Hao's resolve to break free from the chains of his own corrupted mind, as he violently struggles against the mental binds, swearing to protect everyone he cares about, pointing directly at his dark side to reclaim control over his own body, which shatters the chains holding him back, pulling his consciousness right back to the surface. Although he successfully secures his sanity, his physical body remains completely paralyzed from the overwhelming evolution. Meanwhile, the military convoy outside gets swallowed by a massive howling sandstorm tearing through the wasteland, leaving the panicked driver completely blind as they struggle to navigate the treacherous road ahead. Inside the armored transport, the driver reports ancient ruins just a few clicks ahead, prompting Captain Song-Ru to immediately check on Yan Hao's current medical status, and the blonde researcher reports his vitals are stable but he remains completely unconscious, leaving the captain with no choice but to order their detour into the ruins. As the military convoy pushes through the howling sandstorm toward the massive circular structure. Once inside the shelter, the soldiers quickly park and prepare to secure the perimeter, but the captain senses danger, ordering an immediate scan for any hidden heat signatures, demanding her elite squad prioritize protecting the unconscious kid at all costs. Unfortunately, a pair of hostile hooded snipers is already watching them from above, unleashing a sudden rain of toxic bolts that catches the squad completely off guard. Spotting the incoming threat, one of the soldiers immediately hardens his arm to block the projectiles, while a toxic Ocero sizzles against their transport, prompting the blonde researcher to realize they are facing wasp venom. Suddenly, a massive boulder comes crashing down from the ceiling, threatening to crush their entire convoy. Captain Song-Rui leaps into action, unleashing a burst of purple lightning to shatter the rock mid-air, landing gracefully on the ground as the electrified debris rains down harmlessly around her. Meanwhile, her loyal soldier uses his hardened body to shield the blonde researcher from the stray shrapnel. Up above, the hostile hooded bandits prepare to launch their next wave of dirty tricks, throwing a barrage of glass bottles filled with toxic gas straight down at the squad. This containers smash violently on the stone floor, instantly releasing a thick cloud of noxious green fumes, forcing the captain to cover her face as she realizes this paralyzing gas is made from Dominator-class fluid. A horde of hooded bandits suddenly charges down from the shadows, screaming for blood, and their eye-patch-wearing leader lunges forward with a massive battle axe, targeting Captain Song-Rui, but she effortlessly dodges his swing, delivering a high-voltage kick that sends him flying back, crashing violently into the stone pillars as the electrical current completely fries his nervous system. Suddenly, a heavy iron chain hooks onto the med pod containing our unconscious hero, and as the captain tries to stop them, the paralyzing gas finally takes effect, leaving the greedy bandits to haul the pod away, convinced they just scored some legendary treasure. Desperate to save him, Jin Ying runs forward with her gun raised, screaming at them, but a stray arrow pierces straight through her leg, stopping her dead in her tracks, forcing her to collapse in a pool of blood as the bandits escape with the pod. Inside the stolen pod, Yan Hao's chest begins to hiss and glow with a volatile crimson mark. Back at the ruins, Captain Song Rui tends to Jin Ying's bleeding leg while blaming herself for the disaster, snapping the toxic arrow shaft in half to prevent the venom from spreading any further, which leaves the injured researcher wondering how on earth the bandits anticipated their exact route. But a nearby soldier reports that the raiders must have dragged the pod underground to escape the storm, leading them straight to an abandoned elevator shaft that serves as the entrance to the bandit hideout. Drawing her weapon, Captain Song Rui immediately orders her squad to prepare for a rescue mission, prompting the loyal soldiers to salute in unison, ready to face whatever nightmare lies below. However, the squad's tech officer begs to join the raid, only to get instantly shut down, since he is a non-combatant who would only get in the way of saving his best friend. Reluctantly giving in, Captain Song-Ru warns the tech officer to stick close and keep up. Meanwhile, the bandits gather around the heavy med pod, convinced they just hit the ultimate jackpot, prompting their hulking leader to raise his massive battle axe, determined to force the container open. But the heavy blade bounces off the reinforced metal, leaving nothing but a shower of useless sparks. Frustrated by the indestructible pod, the leader fumes over their broken crowbars and useless sledgehammers, until a young, blonde bandit raises his hand, claiming he knows exactly how to unlock it, though the other raiders immediately warn him that the lower levels are a literal death trap. Undeterred, the kid insists a special key lies below, even offering to bet his own life, which prompts the angry leader to grab him, accepting the high-stakes wager with a deadly threat. While inside the pod, Yan Hao slowly wakes up, quietly listening to his captor's plans. As the bandits haul the heavy med pod toward a massive gaping hole in the cavern floor, Yan Hao checks his newly upgraded status screen, realizing he successfully plundered the queen's toxic poison gland. This raiders finally reach the bottom, standing before a colossal ancient beast skeleton that serves as their destination, where the blonde kid points to the massive bones as their key to opening the pod. But before they can even touch it, the reinforced container violently detonates from the inside, sending the greedy bandits flying as a thick cloud of toxic green gas begins to leak out, revealing our boy standing tall and completely awake, instantly activating his newly acquired poison gland ability, which immediately melts the flesh of the nearest guards as they scream in absolute agony, leaving the rest of the gang to collapse onto the cold stone floor in seconds. Meanwhile, the bandit leader stares in absolute horror, realizing they just brought a monster into their home. This bandit leader panics, realizing Yan Hao let himself get captured just to infiltrate their hideout. But the big guy beats his chest, bragging about his past glory as a D-rank warrior, charging forward with his massive blade while screaming at our boy to go to hell, which prompts Yan Hao to instantly activate his newly acquired poison vein ability, ducking under the swing and delivering a green glowing punch straight to the leader's face, sending the arrogant boss crashing through a stone wall in a massive cloud of dust. Suddenly, a terrified scream echoes through the cavern, catching our hero's attention, revealing the blonde bandit kid trembling on the floor as Yan Hao looms over him, only for the terrified kid to instantly pass out from sheer, unadulterated terror, leaving our boy to turn his attention to the massive pile of aberration skeletons surrounding them. Examining a sharp bone shard, Yan Hao realizes these beasts were forced to slaughter each other, and looking up, he easily picks up Captain Songrui's energy signature 10 floors above him, chuckling at how impatient she is while casually crushing the massive bone shard to dust. Meanwhile, the remaining bandits upstairs unleash a desperate barrage of gunfire at their intruders. The squad's armored vanguard easily shrugs off the bullets with his hardened skin, before delivering a brutal, bone-shattering kick that sends the nearest shooter flying backward, prompting the squad to report the area secure, though our boy is still missing. Inspecting the massive claw marks on the walls, the captain senses a deeper conspiracy, until a soldier tracking Yan Hao's signal near a massive pit warns it just vanished, leaving Captain Song-Ru to panic, fearing the worst for their supposedly helpless hero. Yan Hao suddenly leaps up from the pit, casually carrying the unconscious blonde bandit kid over his shoulder. Landing right in front of the stunned squad, our boy calmly assures them he is perfectly fine, explaining that the massive pit below is actually an abandoned underground beast-fighting arena. While the captain prioritizes a quick retreat, the tech officer curiously points at the unconscious captive. But the blonde kid suddenly wakes up, slipping off Yan Hao's shoulder to draw a hidden dagger, screaming in absolute rage as he lunges forward to drive the blade straight into our hero, only for the sharp metal to strike Yan Hao's chest with a loud, useless clink, as his newly acquired scale armor instantly hardens, shattering the blade into tiny, harmless pieces. Looming over the trembling attacker like a shadow, our boy coldly asks if he wants to die, grabbing the kid by the throat as the red-eyed captive spits out his burning a hatred for all soldiers. Realizing the kid is suffering from a severe crimson fog infection, Yan Hao chops him on the neck, knocking the hostile bandit out cold as a military ID card slips out of his pocket, which the soldier quickly retrieves, shocked to find his own missing comrade's name printed on it. prompting Captain Song-Ru to suspect the young bandit might actually be the missing soldier's brother. So she orders her squad to carry the infected kid back to their base for questioning, while Yan Hao secretly places his hand on the kid's back to absorb the toxic energy. And soon the military convoy safely arrives back at the heavily fortified Special Response Unit barracks. Spotting their return, the gate guards immediately scramble to report the squad's arrival to their superior, while Captain Song-Ri orders her adjutant to take the injured Jin Ying straight to the medical bay. But a guard suddenly blocks Yan Hao's path, demanding they undergo immediate quarantine inspection first. This guard demands they strip down for a full disinfection, citing orders from above. But Captain Song-Ri immediately pulls rank, demanding to know who exactly authorized this nonsense, only for a smug, vest-wearing officer to stroll up with armed guards backing him, pretending it is all a misunderstanding while secretly wondering why Yan Hao is with them, prompting the captain to glare as he excuses her squad while still targeting our boy. But before the smug officer can force Yan Hao into quarantine, our boy flatly refuses, and Captain Song-Ru backs him up by unleashing a terrifying surge of purple lightning, leaving the terrified bureaucrat speechless as the squad casually walks right past him. Desperate to regain control, the officer points at the unconscious kid, calling him a filthy parasite, which prompts the smug jerk to snap his fingers, ordering his guards to seize him immediately. This smug officer barks orders at the squad, demanding they hand over the unconscious kid immediately. But before the captain can lose her temper, Yan Hao steps in front of her, calmly offering to handle the annoying bureaucrat himself as toxic green energy swirls around his hand. He casually pats the smug officer on the shoulder, secretly injecting a dose of his new poison, which instantly causes painful dark veins to spread rapidly across the terrified bureaucrat's face. Wearing a smug grin, our boy advises the trembling officer to back off while he still can, leaving the arrogant jerk to collapse onto the pavement, completely humbled by a single touch. Yan Hao then casually orders the stunned guards to carry their useless leader away for some rest, who quickly scramble to help their groaning boss as the squad walks away without further trouble, prompting the captain to ask what he did, only for our boy to promise he merely bought them some peace. Inside the medical lab, Jin Ying reveals her suit was sabotaged with a slow-acting corrosive agent, prompting the chief of staff to warn Yan Hao that he was also a target, which leads the stern chief to suspend both of them from all field missions, while the blonde researcher pushes the chief to assign trustworthy guards to protect them. This chief of staff grimly nods, fully aware of the massive stakes at play, ordering Captain Song-Rui to make their absolute safety her top priority for now. A few days later, our boy is seen relaxing on a bench outside, pondering the military mole and wondering what his next move should be, until the squad's tech officer runs up, waving frantically to get his attention, whispering that he found a photo on the captive kid that looks exactly like Yan Hao's sister. Yan Hao grabs the tech officer's arm in shock, squeezing so hard the poor guy screams in pain, rushing straight to the medical bay to check on the captive blonde kid's current condition, where the doctor explains that the boy's severe crimson fog infection has miraculously subsided, prompting our boy to step forward and politely tell the confused doctor to leave the room, since Yan Hao was the one who secretly cleared the toxic energy in the first place. Staring down at the old photograph, he instantly recognizes his long-lost sister, Xiao Shuo, which causes the newly awakened blonde kid to panic and demand his brother's photo back. But our boy ignores the tantrum, demanding to know exactly where he saw this girl, leaving the terrified captive to stammer that it was at a refugee resettlement center months ago, though he has absolutely no idea where she could possibly be hiding right now. Thrashing wildly in bed, the strapped-down kid screams about his missing brother's broken promise, while a painful memory flashes of a tearful girl begging her protector to return, prompting Yan Hao to stare in grim silence as the brother's lingering vow echoes. At that moment, the tech officer explains that the brother mysteriously vanished mid-mission during an evacuation, which prompts our boy to suddenly press his hand against the thrashing kid's chest, flashing a quiet smirk as he gestures for the stunned officer to keep quiet. Standing over the bed, our boy offers to find the missing brother if the captive spills everything, as he holds up the worn photograph, calmly telling the kid to take a leap of faith, leaving the suspicious captive to suddenly realize his agonizing infection has been completely cured. And the boy finally closes his eyes, beginning his tale of what happened 6 months ago. Over in the base cafeteria, soldiers are quietly enjoying their meals after a chaotic few days, while the tech officer asks Yan Hao if he is seriously planning on leaving so soon, reminding our boy that Captain Song ordered him to keep a close eye on things, but Yan Hao coldly declares that absolutely nobody is going to stand in his way, only for a familiar voice behind him to ask who even mentioned stopping him, revealing Jin Ying fully healed, and suggesting they find a much more private place to talk. Once gathered inside a secure meeting room, our boy demands to know how they found out, prompting the blonde researcher to smugly flash her tablet displaying live medical bay security footage, which sends the panicked tech officer into a shouting fit over her blatant invasion of privacy, though she playfully winks, claiming she is simply keeping everyone safe from potential kidnappers. Turns out, Captain Song Rui was actually the mastermind behind pulling that medical bay surveillance footage, and and she calmly assures Yanhao that she has absolutely no intention of stopping him, leaving our boy to stare back in mild surprise at her sudden, unexpected cooperation, while the blonde researcher playfully clings to his arm, demanding he show them some trust. Suddenly, the tech officer bursts with emotion, loudly declaring his eternal undying loyalty to our hero, prompting Captain Song Rui to bring everyone back to reality, asking for his next move, which Yanhao agrees to share with a confident, knowing smirk playing on his face. Meanwhile, far away on the desolate, ruin-filled outskirts of Chishi City, a burly red-haired thug exchanges a secret password to gain entry into a hidden hideout, rushing inside to warn a shadowy boss that Yanhao is already heading their way. Meanwhile, a shadowy informant makes a quick call to report their fresh intel on Yanhao, which brings a smug, sinister grin to the face of the listening red-haired thug. But a few days later, the outskirts checkpoint of Chishi City is completely locked down, causing a massive traffic jam as drivers complain about the unusually tight security protocols. Though inside a sleek orange SUV, our boy is busy teasing Captain Song Rui about her fancy ride, while the tech officer in the back seat wonders if leaving Jinying behind is truly safe, prompting Yanhao to explain that she is actually helping them investigate from the base, until a guard suddenly knocks on their window, demanding they roll it down for a check. But before they can comply, a lookout on the roof screams that monsters are approaching, as a massive pack of red-eyed Iron Ridge wolves suddenly charges straight toward the city gates. Panicked checkpoint guards immediately abandon their posts, sprinting past the orange SUV in absolute terror, leaving Captain Song Rui to curse their cowardice as they abandon the trapped civilians. But Yanhao calmly steps out of the vehicle, ready to handle the threat himself. This terrifying beasts leap into the crowd, sending helpless civilians running for their lives, and one massive wolf closes in on a screaming man, ready to tear him apart, only for Yanhao to suddenly blitz forward, slicing the beast with his hardened claw, telling the stunned survivor to run while more predators quickly surround our boy. These Scout-class Iron Ridge wolves snarl viciously, their red eyes locked onto their new target, triggering a sudden wave of intense nostalgia as Yanhao prepares to unleash his power, as painful memories of past chaos and desperate cries for help flood his mind. Unleashing his dark energy, Yanhao absolutely shreds the wolf pack in a matter of seconds, leaving the useless checkpoint guards completely stunned by his terrifying, monstrous display of power, while our boy casually strolls back to their flashy ride like it was nothing. But Captain Song Rui immediately calls out to the fleeing city defense soldiers, flashing her high-ranking badge to force them to open the gates for the civilians. As they drive into Chishi City, Captain Song Rui voices her growing suspicions, guessing that the tight security checkpoint was actually a trap meant to find someone, though Yanhao remains focused on finding the missing brothers' classified mission files first. Soon, the trio pulls up outside the heavily guarded city defense team headquarters, slipping into the dusty archives where all the classified patrol files are kept. Flipping through the dusty physical binders, Yanhao realizes the missing brothers' files completely gone, while Captain Song Rui furiously clicks through the computer terminal only to find nothing but errors, prompting the tech officer to panic as he realizes even the basic squad rosters have been wiped, leaving the trio to stand in the dim archives, realizing someone thoroughly sanitized the local database. But before they completely lose hope, our boy pulls out his phone to call for backup, asking Jinying to use her top-tier hacking skills to bypass the system's security locks. While they wait for her to work her magic, the tech officer suddenly remembers another lead, explaining that a veteran army captain named Jia mentored the missing brother and likely knows the truth. They rush over to Captain Jia's house, only to find the entire kitchen completely trashed, prompting Yanhao to inspect a fresh splinter, instantly realizing the city defense team got here first. This tech officer panics, realizing the city defense team is targeting Captain Jia for revenge, but Yanhao calmly connects the dots, realizing this entire setup was actually meant for him. Just then, a couple of military vehicles pull up and a smug officer calls out to Captain Song, introducing himself as Adjutant Li Ben, a guy who clearly loves the sound of his own voice, who immediately requests her help in finding Captain Jia, claiming the veteran went missing outside the city. He flashes a fake smile, claiming the local monsters are far too active for his regular forces, prompting Captain Song to glance back at Yanhao, silently confirming they both smell a massive trap. She agrees to help with the search, but demands that the nervous adjutant tag along with them, which instantly makes the shady officer sweat as he desperately tries to excuse himself from the trip, only for Captain Song to grab his shoulder, coldly reminding him that insubordination carries a death penalty. Driving deep into the ruined city outskirts, Yanhao immediately grills the sweating adjutant about his story, openly accusing the shady officer of sending the veteran captain straight to his death. They finally pull over in a desolate, ruined sector where the missing captain supposedly vanished, but our boy instantly senses something is off, noting the complete absence of toxic crimson fog. Suddenly, Adjutant Li checks his buzzing phone and frantically announces they need to leave immediately, claiming his job is done and his personal pickup squad is already on the way, casually bidding them good luck as he tries to make a very hasty, suspicious exit, only for Captain Song to block his path with a perfectly placed, high-heeled leg, demanding he spit out his real objective before she loses her remaining patience. But before he can answer, a massive bolt of lightning suddenly tears through the sky. Adjutant Li Ben falls backward in sheer panic, screaming that something terrifying is heading their way, as a massive bolt of lightning crashes down right in front of them, shaking the very ground. This sudden display of raw power makes Captain Song realize why low-level monsters avoided this sector, and right on cue, a colossal crystal-spiked Overlord-class Thunder Beast emerges from the smoke, crackling with lethal electricity as its glowing red eyes lock onto the group with murderous intent. Seeing the legendary threat up close sends the tech officer into a state of absolute screaming hysteria, while Captain Song calmly connects the dots, realizing this entire monster outbreak was a carefully orchestrated trap. But the cowardly adjutant doesn't care about conspiracies, immediately turning tail to sprint for his life, prompting the furious captain to order her team to chase him down before he can escape, leaving the screaming traitor to run like wind while the beast prepares to unleash its devastating breath. This colossal beast opens its maw, unleashing a blinding torrent of crackling blue lightning, sending a devastating energy beam tearing straight through the middle of the desolate city streets, while Captain Song Rui leaps high into the air to dodge the lethal blast, leaving our boy standing amidst the rising smoke as the explosion rocks the area. Landing gracefully on the debris, she tells Yan Hao to hold the line while she grabs her weapon. Meanwhile, high above on a ruined rooftop, a familiar red-haired thug watches the chaos unfold, wearing a smug, villainous grin as he gloats about finally putting our boy in his place, boasting to his subordinate that their high-tech canister can easily control the Overlord-class beast, revealing that their mysterious backers have even built a massive secret beast-taming facility. With Chishi City as his ultimate prize, he eagerly awaits Yan Hao's inevitable capture. Realizing the massive beast is an elemental type that relies purely on energy attacks, Yan Hao decides to test the highly potent queen bee poison glands he harvested earlier. But the moment his claw connects, a violent surge of electricity blasts him backward, sending our boy crashing onto the cracked pavement as his red aura begins to fade, leaving him completely stunned to find his powerful beast transformation has been forcibly deactivated. This strange disruption feels exactly like the electromagnetic suppression tech used by the military, and before he can recover, the colossal monster charges up another devastating electric blast, forcing Yan Hao to desperately leap away as a blinding lightning strike shatters the ground, barely managing to slide into a defensive crouch amidst the crackling blue sparks, knowing that a single slip-up against this overpowered beast will cost him his life. Realizing the beast's lightning armor makes it completely untouchable, Yan Hao formulates a quick plan, asking Captain Song Rui if she can use her own thunder-based core ability to help, which she confidently confirms, explaining she can temporarily disrupt its defenses with a high-powered shot. Knowing a split second is all he needs, our boy immediately charges back into action, drawing the massive monster's attention as it roars and prepares to strike him down, only for Captain Song Rui to fire her devastating electromagnetic annihilation shell right on cue. This powerful blast successfully neutralizes the beast's electric shield, leaving it completely wide open, allowing Yan Hao to instantly blitz forward and slash its flank with his venom-coated claws. He smugly asks the giant monster how it enjoys the highly potent queen bee poison, watching with satisfaction as the green venom takes effect, visibly slowing the massive beast's movements. Slicing through the air, Yan Hao easily outmaneuvers the giant beast with blinding speed, and with a final decisive strike, he completely shreds the monster's defenses. Realizing that while its raw power was immense, its physical body was surprisingly fragile, he mockingly asks the weakened creature if it really plans on leaving so soon. While up on the rooftops, the panicked lackey warns his boss that their prize is losing. But Captain Song Rui merely watches our boy, silently resolving to push her own limits, until a massive toxic green shadow suddenly begins to materialize right behind her. Meanwhile, the smug boss chuckles, revealing he brought more than just one Overlord-class nightmare, sending a sudden chill down her spine as giant razor-sharp jaws loom over her, as a second colossal green-scaled monster lunges from the ruins to crush her. Sensing the sudden shift in the air, Yan Hao spins around in absolute shock as a colossal green beast opens its massive razor-sharp jaws right above Captain Song. Our boy wastes no time, sprinting forward to violently shove her out of harm's way, sending the stunned captain sliding across the concrete while her massive rifle clatters away. Unfortunately, this leaves her completely cornered as the green predator lands heavily right before her. But she suddenly screams his name in sheer terror as she looks past it, realizing the giant beast has already clamped its massive jaws shut around our boy. This creature grinds its razor-sharp teeth together, expecting an incredibly easy bite-sized snack, only for Yan Hao to pry its jaws open with his bare, glowing hands, shattering its teeth as he violently bursts free from the beast's mouth in a flash. Yan Hao catches his breath, dryly noting that bringing out two Overlord-class beasts is quite the compliment. As the massive green predator looms overhead while Captain Song quickly checks on his condition, only for the giant beast to suddenly vanish, using advanced stealth to hide its presence, which makes fighting it nearly impossible without a specialized sensory support member on their side. Before they can even formulate a plan, the first Thunder Beast unleashes another blinding energy beam, forcing them both to dive aside as the devastating blast shatters the concrete beneath them. But the real danger is the invisible predator currently creeping up directly behind Yan Hao, and by the time our boy senses the sudden shift, it is already too late, as a heavy, devastating blow strikes him from behind, sending him flying across the battlefield. crashing hard onto the ruined pavement while Captain Song screams his name in absolute horror. Furious at the sneak attack, Captain Song-Ru charges up her own crackling electric power, slamming a high-voltage electromagnetic bomb directly into the giant green predator's face, which sends a massive surge of electricity coursing through its entire scaled body. But the slippery beast immediately activates its stealth mode and vanishes from sight once more. Luckily, Captain Song explains she can track its movements using the residual electromagnetic field, mapping out the invisible predator's exact location to guide Yanhao's next strike, warning him just as the massive beast lunges from the shadows to crush him. But our boy is already waiting, casually blocking its massive jaws with a smug grin, before charging up a highly concentrated sphere of explosive red energy right in his palm. He shoves the blast down its throat, completely blowing the giant predator's head to pieces. This headless green predator collapses in a massive cloud of dark, sizzling smoke, leaving its massive body to crash onto the pavement as Yanhao celebrates their first major kill. But their celebration is cut short as our boy turns his attention back to the remaining threat, only for Captain Song to admit she lacks the energy to fire another shield-breaking shot, forcing them to quickly brainstorm an alternative method while dodging another massive lightning strike, prompting the captain to transfer her remaining energy directly into Yanhao's back, wrapping him in a temporary ionized shield that can block exactly one devastating electric attack, which is more than enough for our boy as he immediately charges forward at blinding speed, while the massive beast slams its claws down to unleash a devastating wave of electricity, requiring our boy to desperately weave through the crackling currents to close the distance. This remaining thunder beast roars, unleashing another massive wave of crackling blue electricity across the ruins, while the green predator vanishes into thin air once again, leaving Captain Song completely blind. Fortunately, she quickly reminds Yanhao that her electromagnetic grenade can still track its residual energy, mapping out the invisible monster's exact coordinates to guide our boy's next lethal strike. Right on cue, the giant green beast lunges from the shadows to crush him from behind. But Yanhao just stands there with a smug grin, casually mocking its massive appetite, before charging up a highly concentrated sphere of explosive red energy directly in his palm, shoving the blast straight down its throat to blow the giant predator's head to pieces. Sizzling with dark smoke, the headless green monster collapses heavily onto the ruined pavement, leaving Yanhao to harvest both beast cores, generously deciding to split the valuable spoils with her. Turning around to address Captain Song, Yanhao suddenly stops mid-sentence as he spots her, finding the exhausted captain lying completely unconscious on the cold, cracked pavement. Just then, a loyal soldier drags the screaming, cowardly adjutant back to the scene, confirming that she merely overused her abilities and just needs some serious rest. Meanwhile, the rooftop thugs prepare their rocket launchers, completely ignoring their captured ally. A sudden barrage of missiles explodes nearby, prompting the betrayed adjutant to spill the beans, screaming that the mastermind Zhang Shi promised him wealth and power for this trap. Up on the roof, the thug boss fumes over his terrible aim, blaming the beast's lingering electromagnetic field. Realizing the danger has passed, Yanhao orders the soldier to escort the captain and traitor back, instructing him to report this massive treason directly to the high-ranking Chief Song Lian. Pulling up in a flashy yellow sports car, the soldier frantically yells for Yanhao to get in. But our boy refuses, telling him to escape while a hostile missile streaks right toward them. And to the driver's absolute shock, Yanhao literally kicks the incoming rocket out of the sky, detonating the entire barrage in midair as the yellow car speeds away to safety, leaving the panicked rooftop thugs scrambling to stop our boy before their reinforcements can arrive. But Yanhao is already upon them, blitzing through their ranks with blinding speed and brutal efficiency, sending bodies flying everywhere as the red-haired thug boss realizes he vastly underestimated his target. And before the boss can even turn to run, our boy grabs him by the face, unleashing a devastating beast claw strike that slams the arrogant hunter hard against the concrete, leaving the terrified captain begging for mercy as Yanhao casually reminds him of his massive mistake. Just as Yanhao thinks he has everything under control, a heavy fist suddenly catches him completely off guard, sending our boy skidding backward across the cracked pavement in a massive cloud of dust, only for a stylish new B-rank warrior named Lu Feng to step forward and receive his lackey's gratitude. Recovering his footing, Yanhao demands to know who this masked party crasher is, but the arrogant newcomer simply splits forward with blinding speed instead of giving an answer, forcing our boy to quickly raise his arms to block a devastating high-speed strike, which sparks a furious, lightning-fast exchange of blows that echoes across the ruined battlefield. Suddenly, Lu Feng coats his fist in a blinding yellow energy to break the stalemate, slamming a heavy-powered punch directly into Yanhao's gut while mocking his opponent's strength, launching our boy high into the air like a shooting star as the yellow energy explodes. This yellow energy blast detonates, creating a massive fiery explosion that rocks the entire battlefield, leaving Yanhao battered and bleeding from his chest as the dust slowly settles, while Zhang Shi openly mocks his red-haired thug boss for failing despite having two Overlord-class beasts. Deciding he has seen enough, the mastermind walks away and leaves the cleanup to his subordinate, who immediately vents his frustration by brutally kicking our boy right in the face, before pulling out his phone to initiate a smug video call with their captive, Jia Jun. At the holding facility, brutal guards violently beat the caged captain to force him to look, as the thug pulls Yan Hao up by his hair to show off his prize, provoking a desperate, furious outburst from the caged captain who can only watch in absolute horror. Little do they know, our boy is already awake and silently plotting his next move. Yan Hao begins his recovery by absorbing the rust-red beast core he harvested earlier, deep underground at the highly secure green vine base of Chishi City, where our boy is currently suspended inside a high-tech glowing containment chamber, successfully absorbing the Overlord-class Stealth Beast core to unlock a brand new power, gaining the Shadow Sneak skill which grants him temporary invisibility and guaranteed critical hits, allowing him to effortlessly shatter the heavy glass barrier with his bare hand, sending shards of glass and containment fluid spilling all over the laboratory floor. As he steps out, realizing this secret underground facility is hidden right outside the city. Alarms instantly blare throughout the control room as panicked scientists scramble to notify security. But Yan Hao merely smashes the surveillance camera, cutting off their feed entirely. Armed guards rush in with tranquilizer rifles, desperately trying to capture their prize alive. But they only find an empty, open doorway surrounded by a lingering purple aura, sending the panicked security team into a frenzy as they realize their test subject has vanished. Meanwhile, Yan Hao casually strolls right past them using his newly acquired stealth ability, knowing his perfect invisibility only lasts for a very tight 10-minute window, which means he has to find the captured Captain Jia Jun before time runs out. Outside the holding cells, two arrogant guards gossip about the breach, completely ignoring their prisoner, only to be instantly knocked unconscious before they can even register our boy's arrival. Yan Hao effortlessly bends the steel prison bars apart, shocking the battered captain inside, who happily celebrates their reunion, praising our boy for surviving such a deadly trap. Handing over a fresh bottle of water, Yan Hao explains he originally came looking for a missing comrade, but Captain Jia reveals he has also been searching for the exact same missing soldier, explaining how the corrupt higher-ups have been secretly transferring their men away under suspicious guises, which makes our boy realize this conspiracy runs far deeper than just a simple rogue captain. At that exact moment, heavily armed facility guards suddenly breach the room to ruin the reunion, ordering their squad to execute the captain while capturing our boy alive for further experimentation. Refusing to let his rescue mission fail, Yan Hao leaps high into the air with blinding speed, effortlessly wiping out the entire squad in a single second to keep his infiltration plan on track, before checking if the battered captain can still fight, receiving a confident grin in return. Meanwhile, a panicked commander orders the immediate release of their captive beasts to stop the rampaging duo. This red-haired guard commander barks orders at his men, desperately trying to keep them in line. But a sudden massive rumbling from the corridor instantly cuts his angry rant short, as a terrifying horde of mutated beasts charges out to tear them all to shreds. Realizing these monsters are the result of illegal human experiments, Yan Hao activates his beast claw, diving headfirst into the deadly swarm to slice through the mutated creatures like butter. Meanwhile, the corrupt scientists scramble to delete their data and flee in their getaway cars, leaving the red-haired commander to smugly assume the beasts will buy them enough time, only for a massive, unseen force to suddenly blow him backward through the air, leaving him face down on the concrete as Yan Hao casually walks through the shattered wall. Looking up, the abandoned commander screams in absolute fury as his allies speed away without him. Inside the getaway car, the escaping suits smugly press a detonator to tie up loose ends, triggering a massive explosion that leaves the abandoned red-haired commander screaming in absolute betrayal. But he quickly tries to use Captain Jia as a desperate bargaining chip anyway, only for our boy to instantly slam him against the wall by his throat, demanding answers just as Captain Jia casually strolls up to ruin his hostage leverage, forcing the terrified captive to immediately spill everything about a mysterious mastermind named Mr. Hong, though the guy claims he knows nothing about the tampered files our boy is investigating. Desperate to survive, the commander offers to lead them to the missing patrol team's location, guiding the duo to a secret maintenance hatch since the main exit is completely caved in, revealing a dark underground ladder that leads straight into the facility's hidden escape route. As the trio descends into the dark, smelly tunnel, the captive commander secretly plots their demise. But Yan Hao immediately senses an incredibly heavy, suffocating pressure lurking deep within the shadows, halting their progress on a rocky ledge as the ominous atmosphere grows even thicker, revealing a massive multi-eyed nightmare silently watching them from the pitch-black abyss. Meanwhile, back at the ruined storage base, Captain Song surveys the shattered containment facility, finding absolutely nothing left behind except for a massive pile of dead aberration corpses, while her frantic team admits the fragmented clues make it impossible to piece together, demanding to know how the driver managed to lose track of Yan Hao so easily, only to learn that the furious Chief Song Lian has already been fully briefed. Fortunately, a newly captured suspect is dragged in, giving them the perfect target to interrogate. Captain Song towers over the bound captive, demanding to know what else the mastermind is hiding. But before he can play dumb, the blonde assistant cheerfully threatens to put a bullet through his skull, prompting the terrified suspect to immediately scream about a secret storage system hidden under the Green Vine Group, which finally gives Captain Song's team a concrete lead on where the enemy is hiding, though her cautious subordinate suggests waiting for backup before they blindly charge into a potential trap. Rejecting the delay, Captain Song orders him to escort the prisoner while she leads the raid herself, heading straight toward the massive chilling tanks of the facility's restricted storage system, only to be immediately blocked by a group of arrogant guards claiming they lack proper clearance. But Captain Song bypasses the bureaucracy entirely by violently backhanding the lead guard out of her way, leaving the bruised sentries scrambling to warn their boss as her team casually strolls inside. Standing high atop a massive storage tank, a masked red-coated warrior spots Captain Song's team below, while Captain Song warns her squad to stay sharp in this highly suspicious enemy stronghold, only for the blonde assistant to suddenly sense a lethal threat dropping down from above as the masked warrior crashes down with a devastating strike, forcing her to dodge backward, sliding across the concrete floor to regain her footing after barely escaping his opening salvo, prompting the masked fighter to smugly mock her quick reflexes from behind his white mask. Drawing her blade, Captain Song demands to know exactly who they are dealing with, but the silent assassin simply blitzes forward with blinding speed instead of giving an answer, forcing her defensive specialist to jump in front of the blonde assistant with his hardening skill, taking the full force of the masked warrior's heavy punch directly to his reinforced forearms. This sheer force of the impact blows both the defensive specialist and the blonde assistant backward, prompting Captain Song to immediately retaliate by lunging forward with her blade raised in pure fury, while her bruised allies struggle to recover, warning her that their opponent is easily B-rank. Unfazed, the purple-haired captain unleashes a deadly downward slash, but the agile assassin easily slides underneath, delivering a brutal, lightning-fast kick straight to her midsection that completely shatters her defense, sending her skidding violently across the concrete floor as she gasps for air in absolute shock. Before she can even stand, the masked warrior leaps high to deliver a decisive finishing blow, unleashing a massive shockwave that tears up the concrete and leaves her completely defenseless. As her panicked squadmates realize she is completely helpless without her signature long-range firearms. Standing victorious, the smug assassin lifts Captain Song by her hair, only for her to mock his strength anyway. Staring up in disbelief, Captain Song refuses to believe Yan Hao could ever lose to this guy, but the masked assassin simply tosses her high into the air like a rag doll, winding up a massive finishing punch to settle the score once and for all, only for a sudden heavy fist to smash directly into his smug white mask, sending the assassin flying backward as Yan Hao casually steps through the shattered wall, slamming the masked fighter hard against the concrete with a satisfying bone-rattling thud. Meanwhile, our boy catches the falling captain in a smooth, effortless princess carry, sliding to a perfect halt while the blonde assistant watches in absolute jealousy, asking if she is alright while she stares up at him in complete disbelief, realizing her supposedly defeated savior is not only alive but stronger than ever. Staring up with wide eyes, Captain Song softly asks if our boy is actually alright, but Yan Hao just offers a smug smile, turning the question right back on her, which instantly triggers the blonde assistant, who screams at them to stop hugging and focus, while the unmasked red-coated warrior staggers back, clutching his bruised face in absolute disbelief, demanding to know how our boy even got here, only to get a casual shrug, as the villain spots their bound captive, instantly recognizing him as the traitor who spilled everything. Furious, the red-coated warrior lunges forward to silence the snitch permanently with a lethal strike, but Yan Hao casually intercepts the blow, reminding him that this snitch is still useful, while Captain Song calmly agrees that they need to keep their valuable prisoner alive, leaving the enraged red-coated warrior screaming that a mere sewer rat can never stop him. This red-coated warrior unleashes a rapid-fire sonic punch, but his target effortlessly dodges every single strike, allowing Yan Hao to casually mock his opponent's sluggish speed while preparing a counterattack, sending a massive shockwave of energy that completely shatters the concrete wall behind the assassin. Absolutely furious, the red-coated warrior powers up with a golden aura, screaming that our boy must die, launching a massive spinning sonic wind blade directly at Yan Hao to slice him in half, only for our boy to effortlessly dodge the lethal projectile with a smug, unimpressed grin, leaving the defensive specialist completely shocked to realize the assassin is a wind-type user just like him, while Captain Song demands to know who this masked freak is, receiving only a vague answer. Desperate to land a hit, the assassin summons multiple spinning wind blades to surround our boy, but Yan Hao easily weaves through the deadly storm, casually asking if that is all he has. Weaving through the wind blades, Yan Hao casually mocks the B-rank assassin for being all talk, before delivering a brutal, lightning-fast counterpunch that catches the red-coated warrior completely off guard, sending him flying backward with a massive shockwave that shatters the nearby storage tanks, leaving the unmasked assassin embedded in the cracked wall, screaming in absolute disbelief, as the sheer force of Yan Hao's heavy fist completely shatters his defensive aura. Suddenly, a thick crimson fog begins leaking from the broken tanks, causing the panicked guards to flee, prompting Captain Song to order her squad to retreat while she stays behind to handle the situation, only for her blonde assistant to grab her arm, desperately claiming she has a better plan, while the beaten assassin pulls out a mysterious glowing vial, screaming that he won't lose, tossing the dangerous chemical down his throat to absorb the deadly crimson fog at any cost. Fully juiced up on the experimental chemical, the red-coated warrior roars with newfound power, unleashing a massive blood-red energy blast that tears straight toward our boy. triggering a violent explosion that completely engulfs the entire platform in blinding light. But Yanhao merely grins through the smoke, noting his opponent's sudden speed boost, as the buffed-up assassin blitzes across the room to deliver a flurry of A-rank strikes, slamming a heavy, wind-infused fist directly into our boy's defensive guard with terrifying force, sending a massive shockwave rippling through the facility that shakes the very foundations, leaving the smug villain standing tall, confidently declaring that this fight is finally over. Suddenly, his smug expression completely vanishes as he senses a massive shift in the wind, revealing a colossal wind barrier swirling around Captain Song's team to keep them perfectly safe. Smiling confidently, the blonde assistant unleashes her special support skill to turn the tide of battle, wrapping Yan Hao in a swirling blue aura that instantly makes his body feel incredibly light, while the juiced-up assassin unleashes a massive roaring crimson fog cannon from below to obliterate them, only for our boy to casually block the devastating blast with a single bare hand, leaving the shocked assassin staring in absolute disbelief as his ultimate attack is completely absorbed, before Yan Hao instantly teleports right in front of him with a blindingly fast uppercut, shattering the villain's defensive aura into a million pieces with a barrage of invisible strikes, declaring that he does not even need the Crimson Fog's power to completely dismantle him, as the brutal impact slams the broken assassin deep into the cracked concrete wall. Standing tall over his defeated foe, our boy demands to know exactly where Mr. Hong is hiding. Watching the security feed in absolute shock, the corporate lackeys can't believe their top-tier assassin was just dismantled, while their boss, Mr. Hong, calmly smiles from his chair, finding Yan Hao's raw power highly intriguing, standing up to declare that they need to pay much closer attention to this dangerous kid, before ordering his men to wipe the remaining data and prepare for an immediate retreat, pulling out a remote detonator to let their secret underground pet clean up the mess. Deep within the facility, a massive containment device begins to hum with unstable, crackling red energy, releasing a colossal multi-eyed shadow serpent that roars in hunger after being locked away for so long. While back in the ruined hallway, Yan Hao stands over the defeated assassin, demanding answers, only to find the red-coated warrior completely knocked out cold with foam bubbling from his mouth, prompting the blonde assistant to deadpan that he was way too rough, while our boy scratches his head in defense. Turning to their trembling captive, Yan Hao demands to know if he led the patrol team down here, and the terrified snitch quickly leads the group down a dark, winding concrete staircase, warning them that the heavy security door ahead requires a highly classified access password. But our boy bypasses the security system entirely by violently kicking the door off its hinges. Stepping into the corridor, Yan Hao asks if this is where the captured patrol team is kept, only to suddenly freeze as his sharp senses pick up a strange presence nearby, prompting Captain Song to ask what he found as he points toward a sealed room. Standing before the glass door, our boy warns that brute force might accidentally injure the hostages inside, which is the perfect cue for the blonde assistant to confidently step up with her hacking gear, sitting on the cold floor to crack the lock while proudly claiming to be an absolute expert. This blonde assistant's fingers fly across the keyboard as she bypasses the security lock, and the heavy metal doors slide open to reveal a massive hidden laboratory, filled with rows of glowing stasis pods holding dozens of captured patrol officers. This horrific sight leaves the blonde assistant completely speechless while her teammate fumes in anger, prompting Captain Song to violently grab their captive, demanding to know what they did, while the spiky-haired teammate spots his missing friend, prompting Yan Hao to prep a rescue punch. But the blonde assistant grabs his arm, warning that breaking the glass will kill them. Suddenly, Captain Song receives an urgent call confirming that backup has finally arrived in the city, only for her teammate to point out a strange glowing device that is rapidly flashing, leaving the entire squad staring in dread as the mysterious red crystal begins to hum ominously. This bound captive falls backward in sheer panic, screaming as the room begins to shake. Meanwhile, the blonde assistant peers closely at the device, realizing it contains highly concentrated crimson fog. Suddenly, a violent tremor rattles the entire laboratory, catching the squad completely off guard. Sensing immediate danger, Yan Hao screams at his blonde ally to get out of the way, as sharp, blood-red energy spikes suddenly erupt from the concrete floor right beneath her feet. Fortunately, our boy leaps in to deflect the lethal crimson blast with a lightning-fast kick, only for a mutated, red-skinned beast to emerge, roaring with the side effects of the crimson fog. This monstrous transformation leaves Captain Song completely horrified, recognizing the exact same mutation that took her uncle. Grabbing the glowing lure, Yan Hao warns that this device is designed to attract even worse monsters, leaving them no choice but to lure the beast away before the entire facility collapses. Clutching the glowing lure, Yan Hao sprints off while ordering Captain Song to guard the lab, as they desperately try to put as much distance between themselves and the incoming threat. Meanwhile, Mr. Hong sips his wine, eagerly waiting to see if our boy survives this test. Launching the glowing lure high into the sky, Yan Hao prepares to draw out the beast, which immediately sends the mutated red beast leaping upward to snatch the bait, only for a colossal multi-eyed shadow serpent to violently burst from the ground below, opening its terrifying tooth-filled maw to swallow the mutated beast whole in one bite. This gargantuan new threat leaves the remaining squad members frozen in absolute shock, while a heavily armed convoy of military backup vehicles speeds toward the chaotic scene, wondering what kind of nightmare they are about to face at the storage base. Spotting the colossal shadow serpent rising from the ground, the arriving military backup panics in absolute horror, and Instructor Lin instantly realizes this behemoth is way too dangerous for Captain Song's squad, prompting the brave instructor to leap straight out of his speeding military vehicle, sliding across the concrete as he activates his powerful beast core gauntlets for combat, before shouting at his driver to take the remaining reinforcements directly to the lab. Launching himself high into the air, the fiery instructor blitzes toward the colossal threat, desperately wondering what kind of absolute madness went down before they even arrived. While back at the crater, Yan Hao and Captain Song stare up at the towering behemoth-class serpent, as the terrifying beast lets out a deafening roar that shakes the entire facility, leaving our boy and his ally to power up their auras for a brutal showdown. This colossal serpent lets out a deafening roar, towering over our boy and Captain Song, prompting Yan Hao to activate his beastification claw, coating his arm in a dark crimson energy, as he leaps forward to deliver a massive wind-up slash against the monster's thick hide, only for his attack to bounce right off the beast's incredibly dense armored scales, leaving our boy to realize his strikes are useless while Captain Song begs him to retreat. But Yan Hao refuses, insisting he must draw the monster's attention to protect the underground lab. This selfless plan completely shocking the captain, who instantly refuses to let him fight alone. Yet our boy charges straight back into the fray to protect his hard-earned clues. Meanwhile, the blonde assistant frantically types away, discovering that almost all the lab data is wiped, realizing they are dealing with a highly professional saboteur who covered their tracks perfectly. Back inside the facility, the spiky-haired teammate waves down the arriving reinforcements with a sigh of relief, happily explaining to the cap-wearing soldier that Yan Hao saved his life from certain doom, prompting the newly arrived adjutant, Tong Ye, to salute and ask for Captain Song's current location, which leaves the spiky-haired teammate sweating as he tries to explain the absolute chaos outside. Meanwhile, our boy uses his shadow sneak ability to glide right past the giant serpent's defenses, dodging a flurry of massive tail swipes that shatter the surrounding concrete into tiny pieces, before the colossal beast snaps its terrifying jaws shut, barely missing him by a fraction of an inch. Vaulting high into the air, Yan Hao positions himself perfectly right above the monster's head, landing a devastating direct punch straight into the giant serpent's glowing eye with incredible force, before activating his poison vein skill to inject a lethal dose of toxic energy deep into its system. Before Yan Hao can celebrate his toxic punch, a massive red tail wraps tightly around his torso, pulling our boy straight toward the giant serpent's terrifying, wide-open maw for an easy snack. But Captain Song refuses to watch him get eaten, firing a crackling mini railgun blast from her fingertips, which slices cleanly through the beast's tail to free Yan Hao from its deadly grip, though the sheer recoil of using raw power without a combat suit leaves her collapsed in pain, as the enraged serpent lunges down at her, prompting Yan Hao to desperately sprint to her rescue, only for a massive fiery explosion to suddenly detonate right in the monster's face, revealing Instructor Lin standing tall with his fist ablaze, casually asking if they are both alright. Still, Captain Song quickly warns him that this behemoth-class threat is far from defeated, but the fiery A-rank instructor merely grins, unleashing his blazing aura to handle the beast alone. A massive fiery explosion erupts as Instructor Lin unleashes his devastating A-rank power, leaving Yan Hao genuinely impressed by the sheer scale of an A-rank's destructive capability, while the colossal serpent shrieks in pain as the intense flames engulf its massive body. But the giant beast quickly shakes off the heat, towering over the trio once more, prompting the fiery instructor to realize this cleanup job is going to require some real effort. Screaming in pure rage, the multi-eyed behemoth prepares to unleash a devastating counterattack, yet Instructor Lin just grins, gathering a massive vortex of flames in his palm, only for the giant serpent to violently spit a colossal torrent of dust and debris, which completely blankets the entire battlefield in a blinding, suffocating cloud of gray smoke, forcing the fiery instructor to warn his squad to stay alert through the sudden blackout. Peering through the thick dust cloud, Yan Hao suddenly senses a massive shift beneath them, realizing the giant serpent has burrowed straight into the concrete to launch a surprise attack. Our boy grabs Captain Song and leaps back just as the earth violently ruptures, with the colossal beast bursting through the floor in a shower of shattered stone. Coughing through the debris, Instructor Lin warns that they must clear this blinding dust storm immediately, when a massive vortex of wind suddenly tears through the haze to restore their vision, revealing the blonde assistant standing proudly after using her high-tech gear to blow the smoke away, prompting Captain Song to quickly ask about the status of the underground research facility, only for the adjutant to confirm that reinforcements have already secured the base and rescued the hostages, leaving the united squad to coordinate their next move and take down the giant serpent together. Spotting the giant serpent trying to burrow back into the shattered concrete to escape, this blonde assistant combines her wind magic with Instructor Lin's blazing fire aura, trapping the colossal beast inside a swirling vortex of highly concentrated, incinerating heat, which melts away its armored scales and burns its outer flesh to a crisp, only for the monster to shed its charred skin and emerge completely healed, leaving our boy and the blonde assistant staring in absolute disbelief at its survival. Adjutant Tang Ye explains that they must destroy the beast core to stop its regeneration, prompting the blonde assistant to point out how impossible that is inside such a massive body. Suddenly, the giant serpent launches another devastating blast that pushes her defensive barrier to its limit, forcing Captain Song to tap into her unstable lightning powers despite the immense physical toll. Activating her electromagnetic induction, Captain Song forces her failing body to scan the giant beast, which reveals the monster's glowing red core hidden deep inside its skeletal abdomen, prompting the exhausted captain to point out the exact location before collapsing in a coughing fit. Seeing her state, the adjutant immediately orders the nearby soldiers to carry her to safety, while Instructor Lin conjures a massive fiery dragon, eager to exploit this newly found weakness, unleashing a devastating explosion that blasts a massive hole right through the serpent's armored hide, finally exposing the glowing red core nestled tightly within its protective ribcage. This surrounding reinforcements immediately unleash a barrage of attacks to shatter the exposed target, but the core's natural defenses prove way too durable for ordinary strikes to even scratch, leaving Yan Hao frustrated as he lacks the crimson fog energy required to launch his ultimate bullet. Just then, a glass vial containing concentrated crimson fog rolls right up to Yan Hao's foot. Knowing he has to gamble, our boy instantly crushes the glass to absorb the raw energy, which violently floods his system with an overwhelming, agonizing surge of concentrated power. Meanwhile, the giant serpent thrashes wildly, sending the adjutant flying as he tries to carry Captain Song away, leaving the defenseless duo cornered as the massive beast looms directly over them, opening its terrifying maw to swallow them both in one swift, brutal bite. Believing this is the absolute end, the adjutant braces for the fatal impact, but Yan Hao suddenly lets out a primal roar, unleashing his newly supercharged crimson aura, launching a massive crimson supergiant blast directly into the giant monster's exposed core, pouring every single drop of his borrowed power into one final devastating strike, channeling every ounce of the volatile crimson fog directly into his outstretched palm. Yan Hao unleashes a blinding beam of pure destructive energy straight at the serpent's core, this devastating blast colliding head-on with the fragile red sphere to shatter its defenses, triggering a colossal explosion that completely vaporizes the giant beast in a flash of light. Suddenly, our boy finds himself standing in a silent, pitch-black void as the smoke clears, only for his younger sister, Xiao to suddenly run toward him in tears, throwing her arms around him while sobbing about how worried she was during his absence, which leaves Yan Hao completely bewildered as he gently asks how she even got here, prompting the confused girl to tilt her head, utterly clueless about what he means. But as they look around, they realize they are floating in a vast, endless abyss. Suddenly, Yan Hao's hand erupts into a violent, crackling blaze as he holds his sister's hand, engulfing our boy in a raging inferno that forces him to scream in absolute agony, as the intense heat slowly melts his very consciousness away into a blinding white light, leaving him to desperately warn Xiao to stay back before he completely vanishes. Waking up with a violent gasp, our boy realizes it was all just a nightmare, though the terrifying vision of his sister burning still echoes vividly in his mind, finding himself completely alone in a sterile, high-tech medical room at the military headquarters. At that exact moment, Instructor Lin casually looks up from his tablet to greet him, explaining that our boy has been out cold for 3 whole days after his stunt, prompting Yan Hao to play along while secretly planning his escape to find his sister. Instructor Lin explains that the giant beast is dead and everyone has been moved to the research lab, but Yan Hao immediately cuts him off to ask about Shuo's current condition, before the blonde assistant suddenly bursts into the room, thrilled to see our boy awake. She immediately starts aggressively inspecting his body, baffled that he absorbed raw crimson fog without mutating, staring at him like a rare lab specimen that has somehow surpassed all human limits, prompting our boy to casually palm her face and shove her away to stop the madness. Getting back to business, Yan Hao demands to know exactly what happened to his friend, who currently lies comatose inside a high-tech isolation chamber flooded with concentrated crimson fog. Looking through the observation glass, the medical staff warns that his recovery remains completely unpredictable, leaving Yan Hao to clench his fist in rage against the monsters behind these twisted human experiments. Turning away, the adjutant reveals that their captured suspect, Zhang Shi, has already confessed to everything, which immediately prompts Yan Hao to demand if the conspiracy is linked to the Green Vine organization. But Captain Song suddenly steps into the room, claiming the suspect took the entire fall alone. Our boy refuses to believe one scapegoat could coordinate multiple underground research labs and illegal operations, though the silver-haired captain agrees that some invisible mastermind is clearly pulling the strings from the shadows, before instructing Yan Hao to follow her because the chief of the general staff wants an audience. Walking down the hallway, our boy learns that the blonde assistant was the one tracking his location, leaving him deeply disturbed by the realization that his personal space has officially ceased to exist. Arriving at the massive office doors, the adjutant knocks firmly to announce their arrival to the boss, only to find the high-ranking chief casually lounging on a couch while secretly munching on snacks. Gesturing with a gloved hand, the chief of the general staff politely tells everyone to take a seat, warning Yan Hao that his legendary victory has put him dead center in a massive political storm, before directly asking our boy if he has any actual plans to handle the incoming heat. Admitting things got way too big, Yan Hao confesses he wants to hear the military's official stance first, which prompts the chief to bring up the captured suspect, who is clearly hiding some massive secrets, especially since the powerful Green Vine Group has too much military leverage to be investigated publicly. This blonde researcher adds that internal military politics make touching the corrupt organization completely impossible right now, leading our boy to narrow his eyes and ask who exactly is pulling those political strings, only for the chief to reveal that the corruption goes straight to the absolute top of government, leaving the powerful leader to make a shocking proposal to borrow Yanhao's unique strength. Yanhao immediately sees through the chief's offer, realizing the old fox just wants a convenient pawn. Captain Song slams her hand down in protest, arguing that throwing Yanhao into this storm is suicidal. But the chief calmly counters that becoming the hunter is their boy's only real shot at survival, giving our boy some time to think it over while placing him under instructor Lin's direct supervision. Standing alone on a rooftop later that night, Yan Hao decides he much prefers hunting over being hunted, which brings us to a massive 3-month training camp organized under the guise of recruit improvement, though the real goal is to stall internal drama, root out spies, and unify the military's voice. And Yan Hao happily uses this training buffer to quietly search for clues about his missing sister. Suddenly, a massive scoreboard lights up, revealing that our boy is already absolutely crushing the recruit rankings, netting him a massive pile of alliance coins calculated from his previous heroic exploit. This other recruits immediately start grumbling, absolutely furious that a rookie scored so many coins, with a smug blue-haired recruit claiming Yan Hao just got lucky while the instructors did the heavy lifting, prompting the silver-haired fighter to snap back, warning the loudmouth that our boy could easily crush him. Before a full-blown brawl can break out, Captain Tang Yi steps forward to defuse the tension, calmly explaining that while the score is completely legitimate, everyone's curiosity is totally justified. So he offers to test our boy's skills himself, throwing down a massive 40,000 coin wager, which instantly gets the twin-tailed recruit hyped, begging Yan Hao to take the bet and win big. Seeing a perfect chance to shut up the haters and establish his authority, our boy gladly accepts, as the crowd quickly forms a massive circle to watch the rookie face the strongest B-rank captain. Tang Yi immediately activates his Ice-type Beast Core, summoning a freezing gauntlet to test our boy's limits. Tang Yi slams his hand down, sending a massive wave of jagged ice spikes surging forward. Our boy effortlessly leaps high into the air, completely dodging the freezing ground assault. Landing gracefully, Yan Hao notes that the captain's raw power easily eclipses his previous opponents, but Tang Yi immediately pursues him, conjuring a swarm of sharp ice daggers mid-air. These frozen projectiles rain down rapidly, forcing our boy to stay light on his feet. Swiftly weaving through the barrage, he realizes the captain's attacks lack true, high-speed velocity. Suddenly, Tang Yi slams his armored fist down to trigger a massive glacial shockwave, sending a colossal blast of freezing energy tearing across the entire training arena. At that exact moment, Yan Hao activates his beastification claw, slicing right through the cold, blitzing past the stunned captain with speed so blinding it leaves everyone completely speechless. Instructor Lin suddenly steps in, unleashing a wall of fire to stop the duel, declaring Yan Hao the official winner while asking Tang Yi if he has any objections, which the captain gracefully accepts, admitting he was completely outmatched by our boy's speed, leaving the watching crowd utterly stunned that a rookie actually took down a seasoned captain. Meanwhile, the twin-tailed recruit is already planning how to spend Yan Hao's newly won fortune, but the jealous blue-haired recruit can only clench his fists in absolute bitter humiliation, swearing to get stronger by any means necessary just to put our boy down. 1 month later, the blonde researcher visits Commander Song to discuss an urgent matter, who presents a photo of a savage beastman spotted terrorizing a remote northwestern town, revealing the terrifying monster is actually the commander's long-lost younger brother, Song Zhao. Holding up the photo, the researcher explains that beastification completely destroys a person's mind. This researcher warns the commander that his daughter will never forgive him if he orders an execution, but the cold-hearted leader grimly replies that some devastating sacrifices must simply be borne. Meanwhile, Captain Song is just stepping out of the shower when her phone starts buzzing, answering the call only to hear urgent news about a massive breakthrough in the investigation, which sends her sprinting down the military corridors at absolute breakneck speed, slamming her father's office door open to demand why he hid the news about her uncle. This commander coldly orders her to stay back, leaving the special ops team to handle it, but she desperately begs to join the mission to save her own flesh and blood, prompting her father to ask if she actually has the heart to execute her own uncle. Instead of letting her help, the commander officially grounds her and strips her of her duties. Refusing to sit idly by, Captain Song sneaks down into the dark underground parking lot, only to find the twin-tailed recruit already waiting there with a massive backpack of supplies. Handing over the gear, the blonde girl reminds her that these favors definitely don't come cheap, as Captain Song remembers the day her uncle risked his life to shield her from monsters. Stealing her resolve behind the wheel, she regrets not speaking up about his condition much sooner, and slams on the gas to speed out of the military base to save him. Meanwhile, the atmosphere inside the base cafeteria is surprisingly peaceful as recruits enjoy their lunch, where the twin-tailed recruit happily stuffs her face with a massive feast funded by our boy, leaving their companion weeping over the sheer luxury of eating actual meat for once. Sitting at the lavish dinner table, Yan Hao casually wonders why Captain Song and Adjutant Lin skipped the free meal. As his companion explains that the captain took sudden leave while the adjutant was called away on another mission. This leaves our boy deeply suspicious, realizing the captain's rebellious attitude toward her father doesn't fit a simple recruitment scheme. But before he can piece the puzzle together, the twin-tailed recruit's phone suddenly starts buzzing loudly on the table, pulling her away from her massive feast as she stares at the screen in absolute disbelief. Shoving the screen directly into Yan Hao's face, she urges him to look at the urgent message, which instantly sends our boy leaping to his feet with the news that his comatose friend has finally woken up. Rushing out of the cafeteria, Yan Hao orders them to contact A Li to help find his missing brother, leading the group straight to the towering Blazing Blood Medical Research Institute to get some long-awaited answers. Where a weary but fully conscious Aishuo slowly blinks open his eyes to greet his relieved friends. This little brother immediately throws himself onto Aishuo's hospital bed, sobbing tears of pure relief, while Yan Hao politely interrupts the tearful reunion to ask about his missing sister. But the dazed survivor doesn't even recognize our boy until his little brother explains everything. Pulling out a photo, Yan Hao asks if he remembers rescuing this specific girl, prompting Aishuo to study the image closely as the room falls completely silent. This twin-tailed recruit chimes in with the exact date of his past rescue mission, which triggers a flood of dark memories from the day the Crimson Fog first erupted, recalling a hellish cityscape crawling with mutated beasts and littered with fallen victims. Amidst the absolute chaos, his squad discovered the mysterious girl sitting near a crashed helicopter, completely unharmed but suffering from total amnesia as the red fog closed in around them. With no other options, the squad sent the amnesiac girl straight to a military-run shelter. But after only 2 days, some shady government agents showed up with official transfer papers, claiming they were taking her for psychological trauma treatment to an undisclosed location. Ashuo reveals the destination was Suyin Town, where he was reassigned before a sudden accident wiped his memory. Hearing the town's name, Yan Hao's eyes widen as a massive puzzle piece finally clicks into place. While the twin-tailed recruit realizes this is the exact location where Captain Song's uncle recently vanished. Meanwhile, the purple-haired Captain Song is already scouting the rugged outer mountain area of Suyin Town, keeping a close eye on heavily armed patrols guarding the rocky paths leading up the mountain, as 2 guards grumble about the boss ordering maximum security to keep their operations completely hidden. Peering over the cliffside, Captain Song spots a fleet of cargo trucks loaded with mysterious, massive eggs. Watching the trucks closely, Captain Song realizes whatever they are transporting is highly illegal, but her reconnaissance is cut short when a hidden security camera blinks red right above her, alerting the heavily armed guards who immediately spot her crouching on the rocky path, prompting one of the thugs to draw his pistol and scream for backup, forcing Captain Song to sprint away as a hail of bullets tears up the dirt. Swiftly scaling the steep mountain path, she moves with the grace of a seasoned professional, but more armed guards quickly block her escape route, surrounding her from all sides, leaving her with no choice but to activate her crackling purple lightning beast core, which she unleashes in a massive electric blast that sends the thugs flying backward, proving that even without her full gear, these small fry never stood a chance. This fallen thugs panicked, screaming that they are dealing with a powerful ability user, but their massive fur-caped underground boss suddenly charges in, ordering his men to back off, prompting Captain Song to narrow her eyes, ready to fry this newcomer to a crisp. She unleashes a direct lightning strike right into his chest, expecting an instant knockout, only for the giant to grin smugly, completely ignoring the high-voltage current coursing through him. Before she can even register his insane durability, he brutally snatches her wrist mid-air, effortlessly tossing her across the dirt like a ragdoll with terrifying raw physical power. Standing tall over his territory, the B-rank boss coldly demands that she start talking, as Captain Song struggles to her knees under his massive, looming shadow. Glaring back, she realizes her electricity did absolutely nothing, meaning this brute is also an ability user. This giant boss orders his goons to swarm her, sending a wave of thugs charging forward. But Captain Song immediately unleashes a massive electric shockwave, sending the grunts flying in agony. She quickly realizes the massive boss has an insanely high resistance to her lightning attacks, so she decides to charge him directly, aiming to temporarily paralyze him with a concentrated strike, slamming her high-voltage fist right into his chest with a blinding flash of energy, triggering a massive electrical explosion that completely engulfs the giant boss in blinding light. Yet as the smoke clears, the boss stands completely unfazed, admitting her attack almost worked, revealing he is wearing a stolen military combat suit that completely neutralizes her electric strikes. This leaves Captain Song utterly horrified, demanding to know how a common thug got military-grade gear, but the boss just laughs, ordering his men to capture her for a brutal interrogation. A cocky gray-haired thug lunges forward to seize the exhausted Captain Song, thinking he has an easy victory, but a sudden devastating punch slams directly into his face, sending him flying backward. Landing gracefully in front of her, a mysterious cloaked ally blocks the remaining thugs, and as he pulls back his hood, Yan Hao casually asks if she is alright. This sudden rescue leaves the surrounding thugs completely baffled by the unexpected backup, prompting their furious boss to offer a massive cut of the mine's profits to anyone who kills them. Motivated by pure greed, the entire mob of thugs charges forward at once, but the twin-tailed recruit steps up, channeling a swirling vortex of wind in her hand, unleashing a massive storm that instantly blasts the entire crowd of grunts into the sky, leaving the enemy leaders utterly horrified to discover yet another powerful ability user. Standing tall, the twin-tailed recruit demands to know why they dared to attack her precious captain, but the furious boss merely charges up his purple energy, swearing to slaughter them all, prompting Captain Song to quickly warn our boy that this brute is a B-rank powerhouse. But Yanhao calmly raises a single finger, claiming he only needs 1 second, which only enrages the giant boss further as he lunges forward with a deadly strike. Standing completely still, our boy stares down the massive fist without even blinking, slipping under the blow to test the brutal results of his recent special training, unleashing a devastating counterpunch that triggers a massive earth-shattering shockwave through the clearing, leaving the once mighty B-rank boss flat on his back, smoking and completely unconscious. Turning back to his stunned companions, our boy casually suggests they make a quick exit. Escaping the chaos, the trio speeds away on a motorcycle with our boy riding shotgun in the sidecar. Pulling over in a quiet forest clearing, Yanhao brings up her sudden, unauthorized leave of absence. Sitting down for a quick picnic, he asks if those mountain thugs were her actual target, and Captain Song quietly confesses that she actually sneaked out of the military base, leaving our boy utterly exasperated by the blonde recruit's incredibly terrible attempt at playing dumb. Shifting the focus, he asks why those armed thugs targeted her in the first place, prompting the captain to explain that the local gang's mountain stronghold is just a side distraction, because her real mission is finding her uncle, who mutated after contracting the deadly Crimson Fog. Yanhao immediately deduces that her father must have forbidden her from joining the search party, as Captain Song warns him that her uncle's beastification is far more dangerous than anything they've faced. Clutching her uncle's dog tags, Captain Song tearfully blames herself for his tragic mutation. She admits she recruited Yanhao, hoping his unique powers could somehow cure her uncle. This confession finally connects the dots for our boy regarding their initial recruitment deal. While curing beastification is incredibly risky, Yanhao promises to do his absolute best, offering a reassuring smile that brings a wave of genuine relief to the exhausted captain. Breaking the heavy silence, the twin-tailed recruit enthusiastically suggests they finally get moving, which prompts Captain Song to ask why they even traveled to this remote mountain. Our boy explains that his newly awakened friend tracked his missing sister to this exact location, suspecting a massive conspiracy linking her uncle's disappearance to his sister's kidnapping. With his resolve steeled, Yanhao vows to tear this mountain apart to save her. Arriving at Suyin Town, the group finds the streets eerily quiet and completely deserted, but their peaceful stroll is cut short when a mob of local thugs ambushes them, prompting Captain Song to decide they should just blast their way through the crowd, until she spots a lone runner trying to escape and call for backup, only for a sudden energy blast to knock the fleeing thug flat on his back, leaving our boy and his crew wondering who just did their job for them, as a familiar blue-haired officer waves them down, identifying himself as Captain Tang. Urging them to follow him quickly, the officer leads the group into a nearby alleyway, explaining that he was sent by the Chief of Staff to find Captain Song's uncle, which immediately makes Captain Song wonder if he really came all this way alone. Captain Tang explains that his team is currently stationed at a temporary mountain camp, advising the group to leave the dangerous search mission to the actual military professionals. But Captain Song firmly refuses to back down since her own uncle is the one in danger, forcing the officer to reluctantly agree and point them toward a hidden deserted mountain path, pulling out his communicator to quickly notify his squad that they are heading in. Before they set off, Yanhao asks if the officer spotted any research labs during his search, prompting Captain Tang to recall an abandoned facility hidden deep within the rugged mountain peaks, which instantly convinces our boy that his sister must be trapped inside that very building. Arriving at a dark cave entrance, the group notes the complete lack of security cameras or guards, but before they step inside, Yanhao surprises Captain Onsong by handing over her wrapped weapon. This twin-tailed recruit smugly reveals that Yanhao spent a fortune upgrading the captain's weapon, prompting the greedy recruit to demand her own upgrade before Captain Tang tells everyone to focus, as they march deeper into the dark, rocky canyon toward their supposed temporary camp. Suddenly, the twin-tailed recruit checks her scanner and notices the local energy readings are completely haywire, right as a massive camouflage serpent slithers silently along the rocky cliffs directly above them, unleashing a sudden lethal spray of green venom straight down at the unsuspecting group, catching the twin-tailed recruit completely off guard as the toxic blast rushes toward her. But Captain Tang heroically dives in front of her, taking the brunt of the toxic splash, grunting in intense pain as the corrosive acid burns straight through his protective gear, while our boy watches suspiciously, realizing the officer's convenient rescue seems a little too calculated. Stepping forward with absolute confidence, Yanhao tells the group to let him handle the beast, as he leaps straight into the air, charging headfirst toward the massive serpent's gaping jaws. And with a series of lightning-fast strikes, he shreds the monster's scales into bloody ribbons, leaving the twin-tailed recruit completely awestruck by his ability to solo an Overlord-class threat. while our boy casually stands his ground, his mutated red claws crackling with raw, dangerous energy. But his victory pose is cut short when a massive shadow suddenly looms directly above them, crashing down into the rocky canyon floor with an earth-shattering impact that kicks up blinding dust, revealing a terrifying, flame-shrouded minotaur blazing beast that roars with pure, unbridled fury, right before a massive, armored, burrowing lizard bursts through the rock wall to join the party, leaving the entire squad completely surrounded by multiple boss-level monsters that definitely weren't in the brochure. Standing atop the rocky ledge, a smug beast tamer mocks our group for walking into his trap. He claims he was just being careless before, eager to show off his upgraded monster squad, which makes Yanhao realize this guy can control high-level aberrations with terrifyingly perfect obedience. Despite his injuries, Captain Tang heroically volunteers to hold off the giant serpent all by himself, while our boy suggests they split up to quickly clear out these annoying battlefield obstacles, prompting the injured officer to immediately leap into action against the massive rearing serpent, unleashing a massive wave of jagged ice spikes that completely freeze the beast in its tracks. Meanwhile, the smug tamer summons a heavily armored lizard, boasting that they are completely outnumbered. But Yan Hao merely scoffs at the ridiculous math of a 4-on-1 fight. As Captain Song prepares to test her newly upgraded weapon on the towering, flaming minotaur, Captain Song locks and loads her newly upgraded rifle, her body crackling with intense electrical energy. She takes aim with the massive weapon, instantly loving the sheer power surging through her hands, but the towering, flaming minotaur lunges forward, throwing a massive fist directly at her head. She swiftly slides backward across the rocky ground, narrowly dodging the beast's devastating ground slam, and flips upside down to unleash a concentrated beam of high-voltage energy right at her target, sending the massive, flaming beast tumbling backward from the sheer force of the electrical blast. Meanwhile, Yanhao charges headfirst toward the armored burrowing lizard with his mutated claws fully unleashed, slamming a devastating strike directly into its heavy armor with an earth-shattering impact, allowing the twin-tailed recruit to dive from above, channeling her sharp wind blades to finish it. But the smug beast tamer easily rides the beast's head, completely unfazed by their coordinated assault. Captain Song grimaces as she realizes this annoying tamer can actually negate their elemental attacks, and the armored lizard immediately retaliates, firing a massive red laser beam that forces her to dodge. Seeing the danger, our boy steps in to shield the twin-tailed recruit from the incoming blast, telling Jin Ying to back off and leave the heavy lifting to him this time, as he channels a massive, swirling vortex of blood-red energy right from his hand, while the twin-tailed recruit ignores his advice anyway, unleashing her own massive wind tornado, slamming their combined forces directly into the giant lizard with a devastating, explosive impact, sending the massive beast reeling backward in absolute agony as the smug tamer loses his footing, causing the thrashing monster to fire its destructive energy beams wildly into the rocky canyon walls, leaving the once confident tamer panting heavily and realizing he completely underestimated this group's raw power. Suddenly, our boy lunges from the shadows, catching the smug tamer completely off guard, grabbing him by the face and tossing him aside like yesterday's trash, while the armored lizard retaliates by firing a massive red laser beam straight upward. But Yanhao's elemental resistance shrugs off the blast as he prepares to counter, delivering a devastating claw strike that slices right through the beast's heavy armor, while Captain Song's high-voltage rifle completely overwhelms the towering, flaming minotaur with ease, leaving her absolutely stunned that she actually soloed an Overlord-class threat all by herself. Right on cue, the twin-tailed recruit runs over to celebrate her own easy victory, but the giant serpent still rages nearby, thrashing wildly against its icy prison, prompting Captain Tang to unleash another massive wave of ice spikes to finish it off. Gritting his teeth, Captain Tang vows to keep the beast pinned down at all costs, unleashing a massive wave of frost while Captain Song and Yan Hao leap into action, combining their devastating elemental strikes to completely shatter the giant serpent's defenses, as our boy delivers a brutal final slash that sends the monster crashing down, leaving Captain Song thoroughly impressed with her new gear while Tang urges them to check the wounded. This blonde recruit happily praises the officer's bravery, promising to report his heroic deeds. But the defeated beast tamer is already sprinting away, desperately trying to escape, only to run straight into a pair of armed guards blocking his path, prompting Captain Tang to suggest they interrogate the captured tamer to get some real answers, as the guard immediately grabs the struggling tamer by the throat to secure him. Lifting the trembling tamer off the ground, Yanhao demands a quick and honest confession, demanding to know exactly what they are mining and why the entire mountain is locked down, as the terrified captive blabs about a secret high-energy red crystal they sell on the black market, desperately pointing toward the hidden mine pit in a pathetic attempt to buy his own freedom, which prompts the nearby soldiers to confirm they actually spotted crystal debris near their camp. But Yanhao is far more interested in how a common thug can control high-level aberrations, leaving the tight-lipped tamer sweating bullets as he struggles to find a believable lie, until our boy squeezes his throat, forcing him to admit a mysterious benefactor supplied everything. Right as a massive horned beastman slumped against the canyon wall suddenly begins to steam, roaring back to life with a terrifying fury that catches the entire squad completely off guard. While the squad deals with the sudden chaos, a rogue thug tries to sneak up on Jin Ying. Meanwhile, a mysterious cloaked traveler quietly approaches the entrance of the forbidden Suyin Town mine, stepping past the jagged rocks as the eerie glow of red crystals lights up the path, confirming that this deep crystal-infested cavern is exactly the destination they were searching for. Reaching out with a hand covered in dark, pulsing veins that crackle with unstable energy, this traveler gently touches the glowing crystal to absorb its raw, soothing power, letting out a sigh of relief as the crystal's energy temporarily halts their painful body erosion. Suddenly, a series of distant, echoing roars reverberate through the cavern walls, interrupting the quiet moment, prompting the traveler to turn around and reveal herself as a stunning, red-haired, horned girl, who demands to know exactly who is foolish enough to be controlling her beloved aberrations. Back in the sun-drenched Suyin Town Valley, the peace doesn't last for even a single second, as a desperate thug sneaks up behind the twin-tailed recruit with a deadly dagger, catching her completely off guard as she turns around to face her impending doom. But a sudden, violent spray of fresh blood paints the canyon walls instead, revealing that Captain Tang intercepted the blade with his bare hand to save her, before instantly manifesting sharp ice spikes around his fist to deliver a lethal counter, slicing the assassin's throat clean open before the guy can even beg for mercy, while Captain Song and our boy simultaneously obliterate the recovering beastman nearby. Turning to the officer, Captain Song demands to know why he killed their only lead, but he casually shrugs it off as a reflex, leaving the blonde recruit highly annoyed. Standing over the dead assassin, Captain Tang claims he simply couldn't risk Jin Ying's safety, but Captain Song silently notes that the recruit could have easily dodged that clumsy attack, though the officer smoothly insists he would rather make a mistake than risk his teammates. Shrugging it off, she tells him to get his injured hand treated back at camp, while the mysterious red-haired girl watches their departure from the safety of the rocky cliffs, her eyes widening in absolute shock as she recognizes a very familiar face in the crowd. Sensing her intense gaze, our boy pauses and glances back toward the empty canyon walls, but he quickly brushes it off as his imagination when Captain Song asks what's wrong, leaving the trembling girl clutching her head in disbelief as the squad walks away, as memories of his past life flood her mind, confirming their paths have crossed before. Clutching her head in shock, the red-haired horned girl mutters a word she never expected to say. Meanwhile, our boy stares intensely at a massive, seemingly abandoned research facility standing in the distance, suspecting that this supposedly empty building might actually hold the dark secrets he's been hunting, prompting him to bolt toward the entrance while Jin Ying frantically tries to keep up, ignoring her desperate calls as he charges headfirst into the mysterious, silent structure, slamming the heavy doors open to find himself standing in a dusty, dimly lit hallway, which leads them straight into a messy, high-tech laboratory filled with scattered equipment, where the twin-tailed recruit inspects the dusty tables, confirming no one has been here for ages. Outside the facility, Captain Tang suggests they leave the investigation to the kids and search elsewhere, leading Captain Song away to patrol the rocky canyon perimeter while the others search inside. Captain Song raises an eyebrow, asking if the chief only ordered a simple search mission, but Tang reveals his secret secondary directive is to completely annihilate the target if things get messy, though he smoothly adds that violence is optional as long as they find their target first. Shortly after, the squad regroups back at their temporary camp to piece together their findings. Yanhao hands over a salvaged hard drive and an old diary they found inside, while Jin Ying immediately gets to work trying to bypass the drive's corrupted security system, leaving Captain Song to flip through the diary, uncovering a dark history of accidental chemical leaks which quickly escalated into a brutal military cover-up and a secret illegal mining operation, ending with a frantic warning about a giant monster and a mysterious alpha subject girl, right as Jin Ying cheers in triumph, successfully cracking open the encrypted hard drive. Jin Ying's eyes widen in absolute shock as she uncovers a highly classified file, revealing a profile of a mysterious girl labeled as the facility's primary research subject, prompting our boy and Yan Hao to crowd around the screen to investigate further. She points out a newly recovered partition containing data that concerns their entire squad, but our boy instantly recognizes the face of his long-lost companion on the screen. Before he can process the shock, the spiky-haired fighter walks in to ask for updates, showing them horrifying photos of test subjects who underwent brutal beastman transformations. Realizing the military's dark involvement, our boy decides to keep this information from their captain, while Captain Song hopes this data can finally help restore her uncle's lost sanity, as Yan Hao spots another locked folder, wondering what dark secrets are still hidden inside. This laptop screen displays a massive, red-eyed behemoth towering over a tiny, familiar girl, leaving our boy completely stunned to see his long-lost companion standing next to a behemoth-class aberration, while Yan Hao frantically asks for the photo's date, learning it was taken 3 months ago, prompting the fighter to analyze the sun's shadow to pinpoint the exact valley location, before he immediately rallies the squad to head out and investigate the area. As the energetic fighter rushes out, leaving our boy and Captain Song to dig deeper, where they discover the girl's physical stats far exceed any normal human limits. Right as a familiar sinister name pops up on screen to trigger our boy's memory, leading Captain Song to suspect a shady corporate group is pulling the strings behind everything, which only hardens our boy's resolve to hunt down that giant monster and find his friend. Captain Song and Jin Ying immediately offered to tag along for extra tactical support, leading the entire squad deep into the rocky, desolate canyon to track the beast until one of the scouts suddenly points toward a massive silhouette on the rock wall, revealing a colossal armored monster nestled quietly among the jagged cliffs and dense foliage, leaving Yan Hao sweating bullets as he realizes how easily this giant bypassed their initial radar. While Jinying checks her scanner to confirm the sleeping beast's vitals are currently stable. This squad stands in absolute silence before the towering horned skull of the slumbering behemoth, prompting a nearby scout to whisper in sheer terror at the sheer scale of the threat. But a sudden, violent spike of red energy flashes across Jinying's handheld scanner, warning her that the monster's vitals are skyrocketing as its massive red eye snaps wide open. Realizing the beast was faking its sleep, the squad scrambles backward as the massive monster roars. One of the soldiers quickly summons a massive wall of ice to shield the retreating squad, but the behemoth instantly unleashes a torrent of fire that shatters the barrier like glass, sending several soldiers flying as the intense heat burns through their defenses in seconds. While a panicked soldier radios for backup, Captain Song notices the beast's attacks are strangely unfocused, prompting Jinying to realize the monster is actually trying to trap them in the canyon, which means our boy must charge forward to interrupt its next attack before they get cornered, prompting Captain Song to quickly back him up to test their hard-earned teamwork, as Jinying unleashes a flurry of windblades to distract the towering beast, allowing Captain Song to fire a massive energy beam while our boy leaps in for the kill. Our boy delivers a devastating red energy strike right between the monster's glowing eyes, but the massive beast barely flinches, letting out a thick cloud of scalding steam, prompting the nearby scout to frantically radio for immediate backup through the thick fog, as the squad wisely decides that a tactical retreat is their absolute best option. Unfortunately, the behemoth's eyes flare with a terrifying crimson light that signals pure rage, shattering the rocky terrain as it prepares to break completely free from its bonds, unleashing a violent shockwave that sends jagged stone spikes erupting from the canyon floor, leaving Captain Song to admit they are in some seriously deep trouble now. Standing their ground, the tiny squad looks up as the colossal titan lets out a deafening roar, ready to unleash its full apocalyptic power upon the tiny intruders standing in its path. Realizing the nearby town will be completely razed, our boy demands Captain Tang's immediate cooperation, but the officer simply orders the weaker recruits to retreat, claiming this beast is far beyond their level. Right as the colossal monster opens its maw to unleash a devastating torrent of white-hot flames, leaving the panicked squad with absolutely nowhere to run as the fiery wave surges forward. Stepping directly into the danger zone, Captain Tang channels his freezing energy to intercept the blast, swinging his arm to unleash a massive wave of frost against the roaring inferno, which instantly erupts into a colossal glacial barrier that completely neutralizes the deadly heat wave, earning the defensive captain an enthusiastic, highly impressed thumbs up from the blonde recruit, while he confidently tells the rest of the squad to focus entirely on offense, though our boy silently wonders how a supposedly average officer can casually block a behemoth's ultimate attack. Captain Song notices Yan Hao's sudden hesitation, asking him what's wrong as he stands in brooding silence, but our boy quickly brushes it off, insisting he is perfectly fine despite the obvious tension, because they have zero time to chat while the colossal beast charges straight through the ice, prompting Captain Song to immediately open fire with a massive blinding beam of purple energy, while Jin Ying simultaneously unleashes her sonic wind blades to shred the monster from a distance, catching the roaring behemoth right in the face with their coordinated high-powered elemental barrage. Yet the giant aberration barely slows down, swinging its massive tail to shatter the rocky ground, forcing Yan Hao to realize that long-range attacks are completely useless against this monster's insane durability, so he leaps directly into the fray, delivering a devastating red-hot punch straight to its snout, only to gasp in shock as the beast's massive red claw swings back to counter him. This behemoth's massive tail swipe triggers a violent explosion, kicking up a massive cloud of dust. But our boy Yan Hao easily slides back, realizing this brute is far more aggressive than their previous targets, though the giant monster suddenly halts its assault, lowering its massive armored head to the ground, leaving Captain Song to wonder why on earth a raging titan would suddenly take a breather, while Jin Ying frantically checks her scanner, noticing some incredibly bizarre fluctuations in its vitals. She explains that its energy only spikes when its forehead eye glows, revealing it has severe internal injuries, prompting Captain Song to lock her sights onto that glowing red weak point for their next strike, unleashing a coordinated barrage of elemental attacks and heavy sniper fire directly at the beast's face. But the roaring behemoth simply shakes off the impact, launching a cluster of glowing red crystals into the air, which instantly crisscross the battlefield with deadly high-powered laser beams to trap the entire squad. This massive explosion completely swallows their coordinated attack, leaving nothing but smoke and debris. Captain Song realizes the beast is reading their moves like an open book, prompting her to quickly pitch a high-stakes team strategy to turn the tide, sending our boy Yan Hao charging straight in to draw the monster's attention, which immediately baits the giant beast into charging up another devastating fire breath, allowing Captain Tang to step up and freeze the incoming flames solid, leaving the behemoth completely wide open for Yan Hao's Hao's decisive follow-up strike. He activates his beastification power, channeling raw energy directly into his fist, and delivers a thunderous punch that sends the massive titan stumbling backward, giving Captain Song the perfect opening to charge up her high-voltage sniper rifle. Captain Song unleashes a massive bolt of purple lightning directly at the staggered beast, forcing the giant to reel back before it can deploy its annoying crystal lasers, while Jin Ying summons a fierce vortex of wind to blow those explosive shards away, allowing Captain Song's high-voltage sniper round to land a direct hit on its forehead, temporarily sealing the monster's elemental abilities and leaving it completely vulnerable to their next move. Seizing the perfect opening, Captain Tang steps forward with a massive spear of solid ice, channeling all his freezing energy into a single, devastating projectile designed to pierce its heart, which he hurls with blinding speed straight toward the giant's exposed chest, wearing a smug grin as he celebrates their flawless tactical victory a bit too early, because the behemoth suddenly swings its massive tail to shatter the incoming projectile like glass. Our boy Yan Hao turns around in absolute shock as a sudden apology echoes behind him, only to dodge a sudden blinding beam of energy that narrowly misses his head, landing briefly at his feet while drawing his sharp ice daggers to stay on guard. Captain Song immediately points her rifle at Captain Tang, demanding to know if he has lost his mind, but the smug officer simply smiles, holding up a strange glowing red vial in his hand, while the colossal red-eyed behemoth towers right behind him, letting out a deafening roar. He casually explains that the squad's hard work in weakening the beast gave him the perfect opening, prompting Captain Song and Jin Ying to demand his real identity and hidden objective, only for the traitor to wear a chilling, sinister grin as they realize his true nature, confirming he played the hero just to lead them straight into this deadly, inescapable trap. This traitorous Captain Tang boasts that every single move of his mission was meticulously calculated, admitting he underestimated our boy's squad while using the colossal behemoth as his ultimate trump card, prompting Yan Hao to glare back, demanding to know what his mysterious master actually wants. But the smug traitor simply promises they will find out once they are dead. Suddenly, the giant beast roars as it burns its own life force for one final, desperate assault, forcing Yan Hao to charge straight at Tang while leaving his teammates to handle the raging monster. As the traitor summons a swarm of sharp ice shards to reveal his true hidden power, unleashing a deadly barrage of frozen projectiles that our boy barely dodges with high-speed maneuvers. Even though the strain of controlling the behemoth is clearly taking a massive toll on the traitor, he still swings a massive ice blade that Yan Hao blocks with his beastified red fist. This force of the impact sends our boy sliding backward across the rocky ground, as a sudden, blinding energy beam crashes down from above to split the battlefield, triggering a massive explosion that completely shatters the canyon floor beneath them. Once the dust settles, the two fighters face off again in the ruined canyon, with the smug traitor mocking our boy for trying to fight him completely alone, especially since Yan Hao's energy reserves are already dangerously low from the previous battle. Without wasting another second, Tang unleashes a relentless barrage of sharp ice spikes, instantly trapping our boy in a freezing domain that locks his limbs in solid ice, leaving him completely vulnerable as the traitor leaps high to deliver a finishing blow. But Yan Hao summons his beastified red claw just in time to block the deadly strike. This two clash in a flurry of sparks, their blades ringing out across the canyon, with Tang leaping back to create some distance while our boy holds his ground, his eyes glowing with a cold intensity as he prepares his next move, prompting the smug traitor to mockingly ask if that's really all he's got, before slamming his hand down to summon another massive wave of freezing ice spikes, forcing Yan Hao to look up in surprise as Tang leaps down from above, aiming a deadly strike that our boy barely dodges with a high-speed dash, while the colossal behemoth continues to rage in the background, crackling with raw energy, as the girls desperately shout that they can't hold the raging titan much longer, leaving Tung to confidently declare that victory will ultimately belong to him. Yan Hao channels his remaining energy, condensing a dense sphere of crimson power in his palm, and with a sharp spin, he hurls the spinning red projectile straight at his opponent. But the traitor stands his ground, conjuring massive ice gauntlets to block the incoming strike. This crimson orb slams violently against the frozen shields, unleashing a massive wave of pressure, triggering a spectacular elemental explosion that completely shatters the surrounding canyon walls. Yet Tang immediately counters, slicing clean through the residual energy with a swift ice blade, confidently mocking our boy's desperate offense while easily absorbing the brunt of the impact, unaware that Yan Hao's real plan was actually targeting the unstable cliffs directly above him. Looking up in absolute horror, the smug traitor realizes his fatal mistake too late as a colossal boulder crashes down to bury him under tons of solid rock. Bursting from the rubble, Daniel laughs off the rockfall as if he actually accomplished something. But our boy Yan Hao instantly teleports right behind him with a savage grin, delivering a brutal claw slash across his back to end this fight once and for all, leaving the arrogant agent screaming in absolute agony as blood sprays from his mouth. Standing victorious, Yan Hao calmly explains that his venom has already reached the guy's heart, warning him that any attempt to fight back will only speed up his painful demise. Yet the stubborn zealot refuses to talk, channeling his remaining energy for one final act, which instantly erupts into a massive glacier, sealing him away in a frozen tomb, prompting our boy to sigh at a villain who literally chose self-preservation via deep freeze, right before Yan Hao suddenly coughs up blood from his own extreme exhaustion. Kneeling in the dirt, Yan Hao admits that taking down the traitor pushed him to his absolute limit, while the colossal behemoth lets out one final, earth-shaking roar before collapsing, crashing heavily onto the frozen ground as the girls watch in utter disbelief. Jinying gasps in relief, realizing the giant monster has finally stopped its rampage, prompting Captain Song to turn around as our boy slowly limps back to the group, looking incredibly worn out but calmly assuring them that he is perfectly fine. Still full of energy, Jinying demands they drag the traitor in for interrogation, but Yanhao coldly reveals that the guy chose a frozen suicide over talking. Captain Song sighs, noting their enemy's terrifying loyalty before focusing on the fact they actually survived, urging the battered squad to pack up and head back to headquarters before more trouble arrives. Just as the exhausted squad prepares to retreat, the massive behemoth slowly struggles back onto its feet, prompting Jinying to frantically check her scanner as the energy readings spike to impossible levels, while a mysterious red-caped warrior suddenly emerges from the shadows to face the colossal titan. This giant beast lets out a deafening roar, ignoring the battered squad to focus on this newcomer. Our boy Yan Hao warns the girls that this stranger possesses an incredibly dangerous and overwhelming aura, leaving Captain Song completely speechless as she slowly recognizes the legendary warrior standing before them. Suddenly, the colossal behemoth lunges forward with its jaws wide open for a lethal bite, but the mysterious warrior effortlessly decapitates the giant beast with a single blinding slash, revealing himself to be Peter Quinn, a legendary fighter who supposedly lost his mind to beastification. This unbelievable display of power leaves the entire squad questioning how a mindless monster could be so composed. Peter turns his glowing gaze toward our boy, praising his incredible potential despite his incomplete state, leaving Yan Hao completely bewildered by this sudden, cryptic compliment from a supposed mindless beast. But Peter simply extends a hand, inviting him to join forces and rebuild the world together, prompting our boy to immediately snap back, asking if the legendary warrior has completely lost his mind, before Captain Song suddenly sprints past him, desperately calling out to the monstrous warrior as her uncle, who merely stares back with cold, glowing eyes that show absolutely zero signs of familial recognition, forcing the terrified captain to freeze in her tracks as a heavy, suffocating pressure fills the air. Tears well up in Alicia's eyes as she desperately pleads with him to remember his own niece. But the towering warrior remains completely silent, staring down at her like an emotionless statue, leaving Jinying panicking in the background as she frantically asks our boy what their next move is. Watching the legendary warrior, Yan Hao wonders if Peter is currently trapped in that same mindless state, recalling how Sandra once reached him, hoping Alicia can somehow pull her uncle back from the brink. But this guy's murderous aura is on a completely different level, making any sudden provocation absolute suicide. Alicia steps forward anyway, desperately pleading with her uncle to remember her and come back to them. Suddenly, a brutal hand thrusts straight through Alicia's chest in a shocking, blood-splattered strike. This monstrous uncle lifts her up like a rag doll, coldly calling her an inferior creature as she gasps. With a ruthless swing, he tosses her broken body through the air like she is absolute garbage, sending her crashing violently into the rocky ground right in front of her horrified teammates. Our captain lies motionless in a pool of blood, her chest heavily stained from the fatal blow, leaving Jinying completely paralyzed with fear as her heart pounds wildly against her chest. Jinying weeps over Alicia's bleeding body, desperately calling out her name as life slips away. Seeing his captain slaughtered triggers something dark inside Yan Hao, unleashing a violent hiss of crimson energy. This sheer pressure of his rage erupts outward, shattering the canyon floor in a massive shockwave. Fully transforming into his beastified state, our boy charges headfirst with a roar of pure hatred. He leaps through the air to strike, but the monstrous uncle merely watches with casual amusement, effortlessly blocking Yan Hao's full-force claw strike with just a single reinforced finger. Before our boy can even register the block, Peter delivers a devastating kick straight to his gut, sending Yan Hao hurtling backward through the air like a broken toy, and instantly closing the gap to land a brutal, bone-shattering punch right to his face. Looking down with chilling indifference, the legendary warrior asks if our boy truly craves this absolute power. Furious and completely blinded by rage, Yan Hao screams his absolute hatred at the monstrous warrior, but Peter effortlessly slams him into the dirt, casually criticizing his lack of emotional control, while a massive red dragon suddenly descends from the sky, letting out an earth-shattering roar, landing right beside the legendary warrior as if it were nothing more than a loyal pet, which leaves Jinying completely frozen in terror as the massive beast looms over the battlefield, forcing her to desperately dodge falling debris while the sheer pressure of the situation intensifies. Yet Peter remains entirely unfazed, staring up at the colossal creature with absolute confidence. Barely conscious on the shattered ground, our boy weakly looks up to see who just arrived, only for Peter to praise his incredible potential, claiming he traced his unique psychic resonance here, before extending a hand to offer them both a spot in his twisted new world. Standing tall with her crimson hair flowing, Sandra furiously rejects the villain's twisted invitation, while Peter merely scoffs, claiming her predecessor's crude beast-controlling methods don't even compare to her talent. Meanwhile, a hidden schemer watches the standoff from the shadows, utterly furious that Sandra ruined his grand plans. Determined to get his revenge, he rips open his shirt to reveal a grotesque, glowing parasitic core, before walking right up to the massive fallen behemoth to claim his prize. Activating his corrosive absorption skill, the madman begins dissolving the beast's flesh to steal its raw power. Back at the standoff, Peter sighs at Sandra's defiance, calling her sentimental attachments a complete waste of potential. And with a dramatic turn, he slowly walks away while claiming she will eventually outgrow humanity. Once the terrifying warrior departs, Sandra leaps down from her dragon and approaches our unconscious boy, gently kneeling by his side to apologize for arriving just a moment too late. Sandra looks down at him with tear-filled eyes, terrified of losing control over her monstrous new power. Gently caressing his cheek, she whispers a heartbreaking plea for him to forget her forever, before slowly pulling her hand away to leave him with one final parting gift. Turning her attention to the battlefield, she spots the pathetic schemer still draining the fallen behemoth, commanding the greedy parasite to back off before she loses her remaining patience. But Caleb merely laughs, celebrating his sudden breakthrough to A rank as the stolen energy surges through him. Flash forwarding to peak delusion, the smug villain genuinely believes he is now completely untouchable, standing triumphantly over our unconscious boy while flexing his newly acquired stolen power. Unfortunately for him, Sandra immediately lunges forward like a crimson blur of pure rage, delivering a devastating, bone-shattering kick that sends the arrogant thief flying across the canyon. Sandra stands over the defeated villain, warning him that his connection to Green Vine is his only lifeline. This beaten thief crawls away in absolute fury, swearing vengeance against both Sandra and Caleb. Meanwhile, Sandra kneels beside Caleb's unconscious body, gently placing a mysterious red crystal into his hand. She carefully wraps his fingers around the glowing artifact, ensuring its power will help him recover before she leaps onto her massive dragon, leaving our sleeping hero behind in the dust. This colossal beast takes flight with a powerful roar, carrying its master high into the sky, only to land before a massive army of suited men who respectfully welcome their new beast lord. Sometime later, Caleb slowly opens his eyes, his vision blurry as he tries to process everything. Jinying immediately bursts into tears of joy, relieved to see her favorite partner finally waking up, and he casually jokes about the infirmary becoming his second home as she tightly holds his hand. Sitting up in bed, Yanhao immediately panics and asks if Alicia is okay, but Jinying stands before him with a shadowed face, delivering the grim news, confirming that their beloved captain is officially gone, leaving our boy completely shattered. Over in the core medical room, Alicia lies completely lifeless on the cold steel table, as the lead doctor informs the grieving chief that her heart is entirely destroyed. Suddenly, an officer steps forward to suggest they utilize a highly experimental, forbidden device, prompting the desperate chief to immediately order his men to contact Director Jin. Down in the core laboratory, the chief inspects a mysterious high-tech containment unit which houses a powerful beast core capable of forcibly restarting her heart if implanted. Though the scientist warns that this desperate procedure might turn her into a mindless monster, this determined chief steels his resolve, declaring he will gladly bear every single consequence of this forbidden choice, while the medical bay's robotic arms descend upon Alicia's lifeless body to begin the highly volatile transplant, plunging the glowing red beast core straight into her chest cavity with cold mechanical precision. As the core locks into place, a sinister crimson light begins radiating from her newly reconstructed heart, prompting a nervous technician to ask if they are truly ready to activate the dangerous energy. But the chief completely ignores the scientist's final warning, demanding they flip the switch immediately. With the final command issued, the lab crew initiates the sequence to jumpstart her system with beast power. Meanwhile, Alicia's consciousness drifts through a freezing, endless void as she desperately calls out for her uncle, only to find a ghostly dragon looming over her in the depths of her own mindscape, before a grotesque, red-tendriled nightmare manifests to demand her soul in exchange for her life. Alicia gasps in horror as the parasitic nightmare claims her body as its new vessel, while dark, corrupting veins wrap around her soul to seal the horrific contract, triggering a massive, violent blast of dark lightning that erupts straight through the laboratory roof. Meanwhile, Yanhao demands answers about why they are performing these twisted experiments on Alicia, but he and Jin Ying are forced to sprint toward the sudden chaotic energy spike, only to find the newly resurrected captain floating in the air, completely consumed by beastification. As the terrified scientist frantically asks the chief what their next move is, Alicia hovers above them like a dark goddess, charging a lethal sphere of purple lightning, before unleashing a devastating blast of raw energy directly at her own creators, forcing the desperate chief to step forward and meet the attack with a reinforced fist. This chief's reinforced fist collides with the purple blast, absorbing the brutal, explosive impact. He immediately orders Yang Shin to get Director Jin and the staff to safety, drawing his heavy blade while strictly forbidding anyone else from stepping into the fray. Since she is his daughter, he resolves to handle this mess entirely on his own. Floating above, the beastified Alicia stares down with cold eyes, completely devoid of humanity, while her father steals his resolve, preparing to fight the monster he just created, and she immediately unleashes a barrage of purple lightning bolts, tearing the lab apart, resulting in a massive explosion that completely blows the roof off the facility. Arriving at the chaotic scene, Yan Hao and Jin Ying cough through the thick smoke, only for our boy to freeze in horror upon recognizing Alicia's monstrous new form. Alicia unleashes a barrage of purple lightning, sending our shocked duo scrambling for cover. This chief steps in, commanding the kids to stay back for their own safety. He dodges her lightning strikes with blinding speed, refusing to explain his reckless decisions, and with a massive leap, he charges straight toward his corrupted daughter with his blade raised, only to be instantly swallowed by a colossal pillar of destructive purple energy. His heavy blade flies out of his hand, spinning uselessly through the air, leaving the horrified onlookers to believe the chief has just been completely vaporized. But through the smoke, he gently places his hand on her cheek, smiling through the pain, whispering that everything is going to be okay as the residual electricity crackles around them, causing her dark, cracked visor to fracture even further as her humanity struggles to return. As the dark visor completely shatters into pieces, Alicia's human face is finally revealed, leaving the relieved onlookers to celebrate as her terrifying beastification is successfully reversed. While our boy watches with a quiet smile, knowing a father could never truly hurt his daughter, who now holds his weeping daughter tightly in his arms, letting her release all her pain. And she completely breaks down, sobbing loudly as the nightmare of her transformation finally ends. Meanwhile, Sandra storms into a corporate office, demanding an immediate halt to all beast capture operations. But the smug executive calmly dismisses her, claiming such major decisions are way above his pay grade, prompting her to point a threatening finger, warning him of dire consequences if Caleb is harmed, before she coldly walks away, leaving the bitter executive to grumble about her being a mere weapon. Sometime later, the recovered captain sits quietly on a park bench, enjoying a moment of peace. Yan Hao approaches the quiet park bench, offering the brooding captain a cold canned drink. She accepts the drink while admitting she was just thinking about her father, explaining how her volatile half-beast condition is putting massive political pressure on his military career, leaving her feeling completely helpless and unsure of how to actually support him. Our boy chuckles, teasing that he always assumed she was too perfect to worry about normal things, which prompts her to turn and ask if that is really how he perceives her. So he dramatically mimics her bossy attitude and all the demands she used to make, before grabbing her shoulder to remind her that she is the most resilient person he knows, offering a gentle reassurance that coaxes a rare, genuine smile back onto her face. 1 week later, the team gathers inside the Special Response Unit headquarters for a critical briefing. Yan Hao and his fellow officers march into the briefing room, sensing a massive crisis brewing, where the white-haired commander stands before a projection screen, detailing the surge in northern wasteland beast activity, explaining that their top combat forces are already scrambling to establish a defensive borderline. But a much more terrifying immediate threat has just bypassed their radar entirely. A Calamity-class Titan Worm King has breached their defenses, nesting northwest of Zone 7. And if this massive parasite completes its reproduction cycle, the entire region is completely doomed. This shocking news sends a wave of pure panic through the gathered officers, especially since their elite backup unit is still 48 hours away from deploying, prompting the stern commander to adjust his glasses, demanding to know who dares to volunteer, only to be met with absolute pin-drop silence from the terrified crowd. Breaking the tense silence, a brave officer suddenly stands up to volunteer for the suicide mission, but Caleb immediately pushes past him, demanding that he be the one to go instead, leaving the surrounding soldiers whispering in utter shock about this insanely reckless new recruit. While Eunice warns him of the extreme danger, our boy insists the instructor is needed at headquarters, until the stern commander interrupts the debate, ordering Caleb to report to his office immediately. Behind closed doors, the chief explains that Alicia's condition forces him to appoint Caleb as the new leader, placing a heavy hand on his shoulder while demanding he bring his new squad back alive. Sometime later, our young captain stands alone in the tactical room, studying the holographic map, only for an energetic blonde teammate to burst through the door with a playful shout, prompting Caleb to sigh as she immediately starts teasing him about his fancy new title. Jin Ying flexes her arm playfully, teasing Caleb about how much he must value her partnership. Suddenly, two familiar squad members walk into the room to greet their newly appointed captain. This capped fighter proudly boasts about their intense training regime and recent level-ups. Caleb tells them to drop the formal titles so they can finally get moving. But Jin Ying hesitates, quietly asking if they should wait for their former captain. Our boy softly explains that Alicia still needs some time to recover her strength. As the group heads outside to their transport, a familiar voice suddenly calls them slow, prompting Caleb and his crew to stop dead in their tracks with confused expressions, only to find Alicia leaning against their military truck, looking completely combat-ready. Jin Ying immediately cheers in absolute delight, thrilled to see their badass leader back in action. Alicia stands tall, announcing she has official clearance to rejoin the squad for this mission, prompting Caleb to offer a warm smile while noting she seems to have recovered remarkably well. Though their capped teammate immediately demotes her to designated driver, teasing her new recruit status, which she accepts with a fierce grin, taking the wheel and commanding everyone to get in, before flooring the gas pedal, sending their armored transport roaring down the street at breakneck speed. As they speed along, Caleb asks if she is truly ready for such a dangerous operation, but she shuts him down instantly, declaring she has finally found her resolve and won't hesitate again. Meanwhile, deep in the northern canyons, the colossal Titan Bug King is already wreaking absolute havoc. While back at the corporate headquarters, a shady executive briefs a mysterious horned operative on the situation, explaining that the nesting monster is heavily guarded by a swarm of lethal armored elite beasts. This red-haired executive explains that the Bug King's crystallized egg tissue is vital for their research, but since the military is already on site, getting their hands on it won't be easy, meaning their mission is to stealthily steal the asset while the soldiers are busy fighting, prompting the A-rank operative named Thousand Faces to confidently accept the dangerous heist. Meanwhile, the squad's armored truck rolls deep into the foggy, overgrown northwest jungle, where Alicia suddenly senses a massive spike in hostile energy just ahead of them, forcing Caleb to immediately order his squad to abandon the truck and proceed on foot. As they step into the dense, eerie mist, the new captain warns everyone to stay close, though Jin Ying quickly shuts down any hopes of using her powers to clear the path. Suddenly, Caleb raises his hand to halt the group as a massive threat rapidly approaches. Alicia suddenly spots a massive threat descending from above, shouting for the team to get back, as a colossal beam of pure energy crashes down, obliterating the ground right where they stood. Caleb quickly checks on the squad, relieved to find everyone managed to dodge the blast in time, but their relief is cut short when a massive armored insectoid beast emerges from the thick fog, which immediately absorbs the surrounding mist, marking this area as its personal hunting ground. Jin Ying panics, realizing this behemoth-class aberration is likely guarding the Bug King itself, and the monstrous hive tyrant lets out a deafening roar, ready to tear them to shreds. Stealing his resolve, Caleb summons his dark energy, ordering his squad to unleash their maximum firepower. Meanwhile, deep inside the eerie Titan hive, the atmosphere grows increasingly tense and suffocating, where another massive behemoth-class hive overlord stands guard, completely blocking the path of three stealthy intruders. This white-haired beastman sneers, planning to use this encounter to prove his loyalty to his boss. But the red-masked leader suddenly halts his squad, spotting a massive threat looming overhead, as a terrifying behemoth-class hive corruptor blocks their path, forcing them to move even faster. While back on the surface, the colossal insectoid beast screeches, ready to tear Caleb's squad apart. Jin Ying immediately unleashes her wind magic, swirling a massive gale to buff her allies, granting the entire team a powerful speed boost that leaves them glowing with blue energy. Seizing the momentum, our boy leads the charge with his dark, beastified claws fully bared, running headfirst into the towering monster without showing even a single shred of fear. At the same time, their armored teammate blocks a heavy blow using his hardening ability, allowing the sniper to unleash a devastating electromagnetic blast that completely lights up the battlefield. This sniper's massive electromagnetic blast hits the beast dead on, lighting up the forest with purple energy, and Yanhao seizes the opening, leaping high into the air with his beast claws fully charged, shredding the massive insectoid guard with a flurry of strikes that leaves it completely sliced to ribbons. While the squad celebrates a surprisingly easy victory, our boy stares at the corpse, sensing something is off, because he realizes too late that another terrifying entity is already clawing its way out of the carcass. Meanwhile, back at Greenvine headquarters, Sandra receives some highly classified intel regarding her favorite rookie, learning that the military council is pulling some incredibly shady moves behind everyone's backs, prompting her to demand answers immediately rather than tolerate his annoying dramatic suspense tactics. He hands over a tablet revealing that Yan Hao has been ordered to fight the Titan Bug King, an S-rank suicide mission designed by the brass to use the rookie as disposable bait. Sandra stares at the smug executive in absolute disbelief, demanding to know if he is lying. But the corporate suit just shrugs, claiming he only wants the kid alive for his research value, prompting her to realize he shared this intel specifically to force her into doing his dirty work. He flashes a greasy grin, promising a perfect outcome for everyone if she just cooperates, leaving her with no choice but to agree to save her reckless brother from certain death. Meanwhile, a colossal glowing butterfly beast suddenly descends upon Yan Hao's squad with a deafening buzz, flapping its massive hypnotic wings to unleash a wave of psychic energy across the battlefield, instantly triggering a brutal mental attack that leaves our boy clutching his head in agonizing pain. Gritting his teeth, the young captain desperately fights the illusion, screaming to break free from the trance, only for a menacing dark silhouette to slowly emerge from the rising smoke. Inside the illusion, Yan Hao's sinister alter ego greets him with a smug, red-eyed grin. Meanwhile, Alicia finds herself facing a masked beastman she shockingly recognizes as her own uncle, while Jin Ying is completely mesmerized by a massive, floating holographic display of environmental data, chasing after the glowing charts like a kid in a high-tech candy store. Back in reality, the entire squad stands completely frozen in place with their eyes closed, though the armored lieutenant struggles to fight off a massive headache splitting his skull, desperately trying to shake his teammates awake before the giant moth beast can strike them down. But the capped fighter casually explains that their own lack of deep obsession saved them, proving that being delightfully simple-minded is actually the ultimate defense against high-level psychic attacks. Realizing they are on their own, the brave lieutenant prepares to stall the monster solo. This giant moth beast unleashes a barrage of glowing purple energy spheres at the defenseless squad, targeting Yan Hao as he stands completely paralyzed under the monster's powerful hypnotic spell. But the brave lieutenant leaps in, tackling his captain out of the way of the blast, while the sniper provides cover fire, realizing they must hold out until the others wake up. Meanwhile, inside the illusion, Yan Hao's red-eyed clone taunts him to embrace his true, monstrous form, suddenly launching a vicious claw strike that our boy barely manages to block in time, as the sinister shadow whispers sweet temptations of absolute power directly into his ear, forcing Yan Hao to grit his teeth, desperately fighting the urge to give in to the darkness, especially when the clone promises that this forbidden strength is the only way to save Sandra. Refusing to be manipulated, our young captain throws a heavy punch, clashing fists with his dark reflection. This red-eyed clone mocks Yan Hao's defensive moves, calling him out for being afraid of getting hurt. But our boy fiercely rejects the dark reflection, swearing he will never succumb to that monstrous power. And with a sudden burst of speed, he lunges forward to strike down his smug double, clashing violently in midair as their beastly claws collide with a deafening shockwave, while Yan Hao declares his ultimate goal is to save Sandra and protect others from suffering, delivering a devastating blow that shatters the clone's defenses and sends him reeling backwards, leaving the defeated illusion to dissolve into harmless red mist as Yan Hao stands victorious. Meanwhile, Alicia struggles on the ground as her horned opponent mocks her weak convictions, but she smiles through the pain, recalling how her past terror has finally transformed into pure rage. As she unleashes a surge of crackling purple lightning, ready to obliterate the illusion once and for all, Alicia fiercely rejects the fake illusion of her uncle, calling him a disgraceful traitor. She unleashes a massive blast of energy, vowing to save him in the real world. Finding themselves in a deeper subconscious space, the duo realizes they must break out together. With a synchronized strike, they unleash their maximum power to shatter the mental prison. Our boy desperately hopes their combined effort is enough to wake them up in time. Suddenly, the dark sky above him begins to crack under the immense pressure. Seizing the moment, he punches straight through the barrier to shatter the dream world. Both fighters plummet back into reality, finally escaping the giant moth's psychic trap, only to find a massive wind vortex already blowing the monstrous beast away. As Jin Ying proudly reveals she woke up early to save her helpless teammates. Yan Hao catches his breath, noting how terrifyingly rare these mental-type beasts actually are, prompting Alicia to confidently raise her massive rifle, charging it with crackling purple energy, as she locks onto the struggling moth beast, completely sealing its fate in her crosshairs, while Jin Ying prepares to unleash her domain to finish off the dazed creature. A devastating blast of purple lightning rains down, completely vaporizing the monstrous insectoid threat. With the threat neutralized, the squad piles back into their armored truck to continue their journey. Inside the vehicle, Yan Hao sits quietly, absorbing the beast's core while Jin Ying talks research. Fearing for his safety, Alicia asks if he can handle absorbing such a massive core. This crew even admits they feel much safer with his monstrous strength on their side. Suddenly, Yan Hao snaps his eyes open, warning the driver that uninvited guests are waiting just ahead. Yan Hao shocks his teammates by revealing that the incoming threat isn't beasts, but actually humans. And right on cue, a muscular beastman crashes down from the canopy to block their path, landing with a violent tremor that shatters the dirt road right in front of their truck, as the horned warrior barks a fierce warning, calling them military trash and blocking the road. Unfazed by the dramatic entrance, our boy steps forward to calmly demand his name and business, prompting the self-proclaimed Blood Howl to charge, claiming the Bug King's egg sack for his lord. He swings a massive bone-crushing fist, but Yan Hao effortlessly slips past the heavy blow, leaving the brute to smash nothing but dirt while mocking our boy's defensive tactics. Blood Howl throws another devastating punch, completely ignoring Jin Ying's panicked warnings to watch out, but Yan Hao casually catches the massive fist with one hand, completely halting his momentum. Yan Hao casually roasts the brute's strength, completely shattering his confidence with a smug grin, before effortlessly throwing the massive beastman backward, sending him skidding across the dirt road. And before the brute can even recover, our boy activates his shadow stealth, reappearing instantly to deliver a brutal uppercut that sends the warrior's teeth flying, following up with a relentless barrage of strikes that leaves the arrogant attacker completely helpless, while a hidden observer watches from the treetops, absolutely terrified by Yan Hao's monstrous power. With the brute knocked out, our boy orders his team to toss him in the trunk as they quickly drive deeper into the forest, approaching a massive, hollowed-out crater, which turns out to be a breeding ground crawling with hundreds of terrifying insectoid aberrations, leading them straight to the colossal, glowing heart of the Bug King's terrifying nest. Yan Hao commands the sniper to disrupt the spawning process with electromagnetic pulses, but a massive screeching insectoid beast suddenly lunges straight at their position, as a swarm of smaller multi-eyed critters begins crawling out of the nest, forcing the squad to stick to a hit-and-run strategy to avoid getting completely surrounded. Jin Ying immediately whips up a massive wind vortex to blow the flying pests away, while a giant bug fires a concentrated energy beam directly at the group, prompting the armored lieutenant to step up, blocking the blast with his heavy shield, allowing Yan Hao to swiftly dodge the residual shockwave with a quick leap before ordering a tactical retreat to regroup and harass the monster from a safer angle, 2 hours later, the exhausted squad is still fighting off waves of flying bugs, desperately waiting for reinforcements. Just when things couldn't get worse, the Bug King halts its spawning to unleash a massive swarm, and the colossal, red-armored monster itself descends from the sky, completely cornering our exhausted squad. But before the beasts can tear them apart, a flurry of powerful energy slashes suddenly shreds the swarm, leaving Yan Hao and Alicia staring up in absolute shock at their unexpected savior, as a powerful silver-haired military commander floats down to single-handedly face the S-rank threat. This massive Bug King roars, unleashing a desperate counterattack, but its efforts are completely futile, because the commander effortlessly deflects the blast, sending a barrage of wind blades slicing through the air, triggering a chain of massive explosions that completely obliterates the surrounding waves of insectoid monsters. Meanwhile, his elite reinforcement squad charges into the fray to keep the remaining pests at bay, led by a familiar officer who desperately calls out to Yan Hao amidst the chaotic battlefield. This massive Bug King screeches in agony as the commander's devastating spatial attacks slice through its armor, while Alicia runs forward in a panic, worrying if her father's fragile body can even handle this immense strain. But the legendary commander ignores the pain, unleashing a massive spatial barrier to completely trap the beast, sealing the roaring Bug King inside a localized dimension where it can no longer threaten his allies. Landing heavily, the veteran clutches his chest as his old battle injuries flare up at the worst moment, before a sleek helicopter suddenly descends from the sky, kicking up a massive cloud of dust around them. Out steps a smug, red-haired corporate executive in a striped suit flanked by his personal bodyguards, introducing himself as Hong Jung-nan before casually telling the exhausted military squad to pack up and leave, leaving the shocked soldiers to demand what this greedy corporate parasite actually means by his sudden demands. He smugly explains that he orchestrated this entire crisis just to harvest the weakened monster's valuable eggs. Alicia screams at the corporate executive, pointing out that letting the monster spawn will cause absolute devastation, but the greedy executive casually dismisses her concerns, prioritizing his shady research over countless innocent lives. Suddenly, he drags a hooded, red-haired girl forward, declaring it is time for his secret weapon to shine, revealing the captive to be none other than Xiaoxue, who looks completely unresponsive and dazed. Yan Hao loses his mind at the sight, furiously demanding to know what they did to her, as a close-up of her vacant, glowing red eye confirms she is under heavy mental control. Meanwhile, the trapped Bug King thrashes violently inside the spatial barrier, desperate to break free. Our boy lunges forward to rescue her, but a female bodyguard instantly blasts him backward with energy, keeping the squad at bay while Xiaoxue is levitated directly toward the massive, trapped monster, leaving her floating helplessly in front of the beast as the corporate villain's sinister plan begins. Floating helplessly, Xiaoxue is positioned directly in front of the Bug King's terrifying, razor-sharp teeth, as she hovers completely unresponsive over the gaping maw of the colossal, drooling insectoid nightmare. But suddenly her eyes flash as she raises a hand to command the beast, sending the massive Bug King charging forward with her riding right on its armored head, while several other giant, multi-headed insectoid monsters burst from the ground to join the stampede, leaving the smug corporate executive to gloat about his brainwashed queen finally breaking her shackles, as the colossal beast violently thrashes against the commander's rapidly cracking spatial barrier. Desperate to save her, Yan Hao screams at the veteran commander to open a temporary gap, but Alicia and Jin Ying instantly grab him, warning him that charging in is pure suicide, forcing our boy to fiercely struggle against their grip to rescue his brainwashed little sister. Looking directly into the veteran commander's eyes, Yan Hao silently begs for a chance, and the old warrior immediately relents, ordering his squad to cover our boy's desperate charge, who wastes absolutely no time sprinting straight toward the colossal barrier-trapped monster, as the commander uses his spatial magic to tear open a tiny 3-second window, leaving Alicia to watch in absolute terror as her friend leaps into the danger zone. But our boy successfully breaches the barrier, landing directly in front of his brainwashed sister, calling out her name with a mixture of desperate relief and pure heartbreak, as he finally stands face-to-face with the sibling he has been searching for. While outside the barrier, the remaining soldiers desperately struggle to hold off the endless swarm. Meanwhile, the smug corporate executive simply watches the chaos, completely amused by their pathetic struggles. A smug corporate henchman grins in the foreground, completely confident that their trap is flawless, as he leaps into the air to rain down a barrage of dark energy spikes, which strike the giant insectoid beast directly, causing it to screech in agony. This masked villain sneers at the charging soldier, completely unfazed by his heavy shield, but suddenly a glowing female cultist descends from above to block their path, unleashing a blinding shockwave that forces the entire squad to brace for impact. Suddenly, 2 massive energy beams streak across the battlefield, narrowly missing the soldiers, prompting Jin Ying to step forward with a furious glare, demanding they stop right there, as she unleashes her full power, crackling with intense purple lightning and wind, sending a devastating lightning bolt that blasts the arrogant masked villain clean into the sky. Jin Ying grits her teeth, swearing she won't let anyone interfere with Yan Hao's desperate rescue mission, while the rest of the squad unleashes a barrage of elemental attacks to keep the swarm at bay, prompting Alicia to coordinate their fire, desperately holding the line against the incoming wave wave of hostile forces. But inside the barrier, the colossal Bug King swings a massive claw directly at our boy, who barely manages to dodge, standing his ground as the towering insectoid nightmare looms over him. Suddenly, Xiaoxue clutches her head in absolute agony, her brainwashing starting to violently clash with her memories, which Yanhao immediately notices, realizing the corporate villain's mental grip on his sister is finally slipping, as she desperately struggles to warn her brother to run before the beast's instincts completely take over, leaving our boy sweating bullets as he frantically tries to figure out his next move, until he spots a glowing crack on the monster's chest, realizing that destroying the core is his only hope. Determined to save his sister, Yanhao charges forward to sever the mental link, while Alicia screams in panic, warning him that his reckless plan is pure suicide. Ignoring her warnings, our boy channels his energy and winds up a massive punch, slamming his fist directly into the glowing crack on the Bug King's armored chest, which shatters the protective plating to expose the monster's raw, glowing core. Wasting no time, Yanhao reaches straight into the wound to grab the core, gritting his teeth as he prepares to rip the source of power right out, wrapping both hands around the burning sphere to force a brutal disconnect. But the sudden backlash of raw energy violently tears at his arms and face, sending a massive mental shockwave that makes his brainwashed sister scream in agony. This masked villain watches in absolute horror as Yanhao directly absorbs the beast core's raw energy, while our boy stands defiantly before a colossal, roaring mental manifestation of the Bug King, refusing to back down even as the intense mental strain makes his nose and mouth bleed, as Xiaoxu's subconscious desperately cries out for help from deep within the monster's thrashing body, prompting Yanhao to sprint directly up the beast's armored back to reach his sister, finally confronting her face to face and promising that he will never let her suffer another second, which miraculously breaks through the brainwashing, bringing tears to her eyes as she recognizes him. And despite his own bloody, battered face, our boy offers her a warm, reassuring smile. Meanwhile, Alicia and Jin Ying watch the unfolding miracle while still holding off the surrounding swarm, leaving the smug corporate executive completely speechless as his perfect plan falls apart in real time. Yanhao smiles through the blood, his face battered but his heart finally at ease. Before his vision begins to fade, the sheer exhaustion of the battle finally catching up, and he collapses backward into the snow as his panicked sister desperately reaches out for him. Catching him gently, Xiaoxue cradles his head just as the spatial barrier around them completely shatters, which allows her to lock eyes with the corporate goons who dared to exploit her, sending the terrified villain scrambling backward as her overwhelming aura begins to flare, as she summons a barrage of massive purple energy spheres to block their only escape route, unleashing a relentless bombardment of magical projectiles directly at the fleeing cowards, causing massive explosions that tear up the ground and completely shatter their confidence, leaving the once smug executive to scream for a retreat as his entire operation goes up in smoke. Hong Zhengnan and his bodyguard sprint desperately toward their waiting helicopter to escape the chaos, as a sudden wave of dark energy erupts right in front of them, instantly shredding one of the corporate goons who fails to react in time, forcing the female bodyguard to tackle her boss to the ground to dodge the lethal follow-up. Emerging from the shadows is a terrifying white-haired demonic warrior clad in a tattered red cape, who gloats about how beautifully the old order is currently tearing itself apart. Recognizing the monster, the veteran commander grimaces in disgust at what his former ally has become, while the demonic Zhao simply sneers, thanking the old man for his current monstrous evolution, prompting the commander to coldly warn him that this dark path leads only to a dead end. Unfazed, the villain spreads his arms wide, inviting them to abandon the past and join his glorious new faction. Jin Ying screams at her corrupted uncle, desperately trying to snap him out of his dark trance. But the demonic Zhao merely sneers, preparing to sweep away the remaining obstacles while Yanhao lies unconscious, as he summons a terrifying army of giant skeletal monsters from a swirling sea of blood, prompting the veteran squad members to coordinate their defense to protect our boy's unconscious body, while Jin Ying quickly carries the battered hero away from the rapidly expanding danger zone, leaving the brave defender to face a barrage of lethal red energy slashes from above, which he barely blocks by conjuring a massive glowing blue energy shield just in time. Meanwhile, the red-haired Alicia agilely dodges a sudden volley of incoming magical projectiles, though the demonic villain remains completely unfazed as the chaotic crossfire erupts all around him, unleashing a devastating whirlwind of razor-sharp energy slashes to wipe out his targets once and for all. Xiaoxiu commands a horde of giant insectoid beasts to swarm the demonic Zhao, but the overpowered villain effortlessly slices through the monsters with a single bloody slash. Meanwhile, Song Ri panics over Yanhao's unconscious body, desperately trying to wake him up, deciding his only hope is for her to transfer her own volatile lightning energy, ignoring the warning that this reckless power transfer is starting to mutate her own body. Back on the battlefield, the demonic Zhao launches a brutal punch at the glasses-wearing warrior. Suddenly, Xiaoshua's giant insectoid beast intercepts, blasting a massive energy beam from its maw, forcing the white-haired demon to dodge backward while the glasses-wearing fighter watches in awe, though the immense strain of controlling the beasts quickly leaves Xiaoxue clutching her head in agony. Yet she stubbornly assures the worried warrior that she is still ready to fight. Song Rui unleashes a massive, crackling sphere of blue lightning from her newly mutated form, while the glasses-wearing warrior backs her up by launching a spinning golden energy disc, forcing the demonic Zhao to face their combined ultimate attacks head-on without flinching. But the overpowered villain simply charges straight through the blinding crossfire with terrifying speed, physically tearing their magical blasts apart with his bare hands in a display of pure dominance, triggering a colossal explosion that completely shatters the surrounding landscape and blows the heroes back. Coughing up blood, the veteran fighter collapses to the ground as Song Rui rushes to his side, only for the demonic Zhao to loom over them like an absolute nightmare, declaring their struggle finished, until a sudden surge of crimson energy erupts around Yanhao's floating, unconscious body, prompting the white-haired demon to smirk as he senses a massive new power finally waking up. A massive pillar of crimson energy erupts from the ground, catching the demonic Zhao completely off guard, as Yanhao stands enveloped in a terrifying, monstrous aura of pure dark power, leaving the girls to watch in absolute shock, terrified that the beast has taken over. But our boy simply looks back with a smirk, reassuring them he is still in control, prompting the demonic Zhao to grin maniacally, thrilled to welcome a fellow monster to his side. Though Yanhao instantly shuts him down, having zero interest in becoming a hideous freak. Sneering at the rejection, the white-haired villain mocks our boy's complete lack of grand ambition, before launching a relentless barrage of razor-sharp red energy slashes to teach him a lesson, causing his panicked sister to scream out in terror as the deadly strikes close in. But Yanhao effortlessly leaps into the air, ready to tear his opponent to shreds. Realizing they need to back up our boy, Alicia and the glasses-wearing warrior charge in together, while Yanhao and the demonic Zhao clash in a blinding flurry of dark energy strikes, allowing the two allies to dive from above with their magical attacks fully charged. But the overpowered villain effortlessly blows them away with a single massive shockwave. Mocking their weak efforts, the white-haired demon dares our boy to show his true strength, leading to a brutal exchange of high-speed blows that barely even grazes the villain, who easily counters with a heavy strike that sends Yanhao reeling backward, until our boy grins through the pain, revealing he let himself get hit just to grab him. Channeling every ounce of his remaining crimson energy into his fist, Yanhao prepares a counterattack, delivering a devastating punch straight to the demon's face, as payback for hurting Song Rui. This devastating blow sends the demonic Zhao flying backward, carving a massive trench through the snowy ground. Coughing up blood, the villain grins maniacally on his hands and knees, thoroughly enjoying the pain. But realizing he is running low on energy, he decides to call it a day and retreat, only for a massive bolt of purple lightning to suddenly crash down directly on his head, catching the arrogant demon completely off guard as the crackling electricity traps him in place. Jinying steps forward with sparking fists, coldly apologizing to her uncle as she blocks his escape, while Yanhao steps up to finish the job, conjuring a swirling vortex of crimson energy, which rapidly expands into a colossal, glowing sphere of pure destruction that dwarfs the entire battlefield, leaving our boy to glare down at his target with absolute cold-blooded focus, before he hurls the massive bomb of raw power directly at the helpless, trapped villain. Yanhao screams as he pours every last drop of his energy into the strike, sending the massive energy bomb crashing directly into the screaming demonic Zhao, triggering a colossal explosion that completely engulfs the battlefield in blinding light. When the smoke finally clears, the demonic corruption is gone, leaving a battered man standing quietly. He collapses into his brother's arms, weakly apologizing for all the chaos he caused, while Jin Ying watches with tears in her eyes, wondering if the nightmare is finally over. And indeed, the military officially declares the mission a massive, highly successful victory. Sometime later, Yanhao chats with an officer about his new, downgraded B-rank status, explaining that the Bug King's crystal medicine is keeping everyone's condition perfectly stable, before immediately pivoting to ask for a massive bonus to cover his sister's growing expenses. Saying goodbye to instructor Lin, Yanhao heads home to finally spend some quality time with his sister. But as soon as he steps through the door, Xiaoshui happily reveals they have an unexpected dinner guest, who turns out to be none other than Song Rui, currently skipping her family feast to mooch their food, complaining loudly about her dad refusing to let her visit her uncle, while Yanhao silently pities her father. Trying to change the subject, she asks about his new teaching gig, mentioning that the recruits aren't exactly impressed, which immediately makes our boy suspect that a certain blonde twin-tailed teammate has been gossiping behind his back. Though the awkward tension quickly melts away as Xiaoshui serves up a delicious home-cooked meal for the trio. Once dinner wraps up, Song Rui prepares to leave before her overprotective father sends a search party after her, prompting Xiaoshui to suggest that her brother should play gentleman and walk their guest home in the dark, earning him a swift elbow to the ribs when he points out she could easily beat up 10 of him. Walking down the quiet street, Song Rui softly thanks our boy for saving her corrupted uncle, but when she anxiously asks if her uncle will ever wake up, he reassures her, offering a rare, genuine smile while telling her to just take things one step at a time. Suddenly, a brilliant shooting star cuts across the night sky, catching her attention, prompting her to point it out excitedly while our boy immediately pulls out his new communicator, only to get roasted by his sister for texting her instead of focusing on his date.